Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 26 with Amanda James.
Hello, everyone.
How are you
Welcome.
today?
I'm fantastic. Pretty
Good,
good.
good,
Yeah,
good. So, are you ready for the riveting conclusion?
I am. I've been looking forward to it. I had to stop myself from reading ahead to find out how much toilet paper Alberto ended up using. And
Yeah, I didn't read this either.
oh, good.
So we're both in for a surprise. So hopefully everyone is in for a surprise as well, and we're going to sit back and relax, and we're going to listen to
Hmm.
a story of a man who's been betrayed by the American justice system.
Hmm.
So, let's see. So, do you want to just recap maybe a little bit of what we talked about last time?
Oh, yeah, in our short video from
Yeah.
last time.
Yeah.
Um, well, Lorne is writing this journal slash book, and the purpose is to inform the world really of the corrupt justice system and how they incarcerate people for money and how disgusting it all is. So he's writing down really important things like um, the amount of toilet paper his roommate uses, and really just giving us an inside look at life in jail, mainly about the other inmates in jail and what disgusting losers they all are
Yes.
and how gay they all are.
They're all gay and they're also ignorant as hell.
They are. Lauren is far superior. He doesn't belong there. He doesn't belong around those kinds of people.
Hmm.
And he needs that to be known in his book to the rest of us Americans.
Right. Right. Exactly. So, here's where we're going to begin today. I've been writing this book almost all the time that I've been here. And to be honest, I feel like I'm repeating myself with the stupid things that happen in here. I may write a book and name it Camp for when I get out of here and go to prison camp, which will be soon. But for now, I think I'll have to bring this book to a conclusion. Before I bring this book to an end, I've decided I'm going to tell the reason I'm in this situation and discuss it a little. My final court date is August 18th for my final sentencing for the state. I've already had my final sentencing for my federal charge. If you're not catching on to what I just said, that I've been charged basically twice for the same crime. The only difference is that they gave it a different name on the federal end and added traveling interstate commerce, i.e., crossing state lines. Now, you would think that when the feds picked it up, the state would drop it, which they probably would have if it were any other state besides Kentucky. I was told by one of the inmates that lives here that the motto of this place is come here on vacation, leave on probation, and come back on violation. Not exactly a reputation that a city should strive for when trying to attract tourism. Well, anyway, from what I've seen and heard since I've been in here is that the officials in this city strive for power and recognition any way they possibly can, good or bad. One of those ways is what landed me here at the Warren County Regional Jail.
Well, okay, so we have another book to look forward to.
Yes, it's called Camp.
Camp. Kind
It's
of a vague
funny.
title.
Yeah, it's a vague title, but also it just sounds like he's going away to camp, the way that he
Right.
explains it.
Yeah, his prison camp.
Yeah. He's going to meet all kinds of new friends and go on new adventures.
Yeah.
So he's obviously complaining about getting charged twice
Hmm.
with the federal charge of traveling interstate commerce or crossing state lines, which, of course, that's why he has the federal charge.
Exactly. Right. They're different things.
Yeah, they're different things, but he's pissed off about it.
Yeah, it's double jeopardy. And he knows that. He saw a movie about double jeopardy once before, and he knows that it's against the Constitution.
That's
But
right.
Kentucky doesn't give a fuck because they are going to strive for power and recognition in any way, like arresting criminals.
Yeah,
They're just doing it for power and recognition.
they sure are. And if he was in any other state, this wouldn't be happening. The state would have
That's true.
happily stepped aside and let the feds take over. But
Hmm.
because it's Kentucky, they refuse to do that.
Because their motto, their state motto is come on vacation, leave on probation.
And come back on violation.
Hmm.
Maybe if you're a
Whereas,
criminal.
right. I doubt most visitors to Kentucky end up in that situation.
Right. So someone who's sitting in jail is probably going to think that because they probably have been in jail multiple times,
Hmm.
so they're thinking that this is just normal life. It has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with how the state is operating.
I know, and that's what he's saying. It's all just the corrupt, the people in power. People are doing this for money, for recognition, for power, for fame. None of this happened because of his actions, because
No.
he broke the law.
Right. Right. So the next part is going to be talking about Dateline. So
Ooh,
do you want to read that one?
I do. For those of you that have never heard of the MSNBC Dateline show To Catch a Predator, they're a reality television show that attempts to catch online predators. That's the reason I'm in jail. The thing that irks the hell out of me is that some people on the show are made out to be something they're not. The good thing about America is the freedom of speech. The bad thing about America is that the decision of guilty or not guilty can be bought by what the media decides should be seen by the public and what should not be seen by the public. Now, unfortunately, the media strives to bring out the worst in people because that's what sells. They think that people want to hear disgusting things, regardless if it's the truth or lie, and regardless of how circumstances come about. The way I was raised was to be honest and tell the truth. Well, sometimes the truth may hurt, but at least it won't come back to bite you in the keister later.
And by the way, keister is capitalized for some reason.
K Easter.
Yeah.
Something MSNBC datelines To Catch a Predator and its host Chris Hansen and their affiliate Perverted Justice should have thought about when they started doing this show. Their way of thinking is that they can do and put anything they want on television, and America will believe anything they say. They never expected someone would write a book telling all about their disgusting tactics they use just to get people on the show so their ratings will go up so they can make a dishonest dollar from the American citizens. Uh-oh, MSNBC.
You
You
must
never
have read
thought.
the wrong one.
That's right. You never thought someone would expose your disgusting tactics, did ya? Then
No, they
came then
didn't.
came Lorne Armstrong.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. He's going to tell the truth. He's going to show you and everyone else in America that he was in the right and you all were in the wrong.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny that he's saying a good thing about America is freedom of speech, right?
Except for when the press does it. But except then.
Right. But what's interesting though is that he doesn't then talk about speech in a way. He's talking about guilty or not being guilty or not guilty.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, of course, he wasn't found guilty by what was put on TV.
Right.
He was found guilty based on his chat log,
Hmm.
his phone calls, the images that he sent out via his webcam. This thing went on for a month. All the planning that he did, all of the efforts that he made to not be found out, that's what got him into trouble. It
Yeah,
wasn't
the facts of
because,
the case.
yeah, the facts of the case, the actual facts. But of course, he's going to hold on to what was on the show. He has such an anger toward just the show itself.
Which really probably played like a very, very little part in his actual court case. They're not looking
Sure.
at the show. They're not watching. I mean, some parts, like during his interrogation, some parts that were aired when
Hmm.
he admitted that they were images of himself. But yeah, the show is, it's like he's mixing up um, public perception of him from the show
Yeah.
and the courts and what went on with the court when they're quite different. He's like acting like he can't get a fair trial because this show was aired.
Right. Yeah. And you're absolutely right that there's a massive difference between what happens in a court of law and the court of public opinion.
Hmm.
Because the court of public opinion is wild, right? People are basically executed before they go to trial in court. You
Hmm.
know, by everything that's said on social media, there's a lot of conclusions that are drawn, you know, by reading a headline, and as soon as somebody's arrested, it's assumed that they're guilty. All of that, you know, all of that is going to happen. But again, that's not the reason why he's in jail. It's not because people think that he should be in jail. Because if that were the case, then he would be in jail right now.
Right. Well, and if that were, I mean, Casey Anthony, for example, um, that's a case where the public opinion and the um, conviction by the public was different from the court decision.
Right.
Everyone would have had her head chopped off
Yeah.
if it was up to public opinion. But I mean, courts, I think, are careful. That's why juries are sequestered. They have to make sure they haven't heard anything about the case because they don't want anything from the media or the public perception to color their ideas
Hmm.
or their opinion on it.
Yeah, and they go through efforts to move the venue if they have to,
Hmm.
you know, in order to get a jury that could be unbiased, you know, isn't going to be swayed. And those are the questions that are asked as well. I mean, even if you have heard it before, are you able to put it aside? You know, are you able to just base your decision base it on what you're hearing in court, which is what you have to do. Whatever evidence is said, it doesn't matter what the media is saying, it doesn't matter what you've read about, you know, before, any interviews that you've seen. It's all based on what evidence is presented. So if they're able to do that, then they're able to do that.
Right, but Lorne's not even there. He's
No.
considering taking a plea deal. He's not at the point where he would have to worry about a trial and what a jury might think about it.
Right. And then also, too, who's going to know who he is? I mean, if he were to take it to trial, what are the odds that someone is going to say, "Oh yeah, I remember that guy."
Yeah, I
You
know.
know, he's just going to be one of the other sex offenders that's coming up for trial, you know.
Hmm.
So it's not as if he had this Casey Anthony, Jodi Arias type of a case where they would have to consider, what is this jury thinking? You know, what have they heard? Is
Right.
it going to come into play of, you know, are they already walking in there with an idea of what's going on versus, you know, this person sitting here is not guilty because there's been no verdict yet.
Right. I don't know what he's thinking in this. He's just mixing the two up together just to make himself more of a victim. But he said, the media puts out the bad things about people without telling why those circumstances came about. Nobody cares.
Hmm.
That's why nobody cares. I mean, and he did get his opportunity to tell why that came about. He told the Amanda James story. Chris asked
Yeah.
him, what's going on here? And Lorne told the whole Amanda James story. So he
Hmm.
had the opportunity to defend himself.
Hmm. And he would have
And
had an opportunity at trial as well.
right, exactly. He could have exactly had all his the mitigating factors laid out for everybody to see.
Right. So basically, what he's saying is that America and the world should have known why he was in Nashville, what happened to him prior to going there, and so that he could sit there and cry and tell you all about it. And then you say, "Oh, I understand. I can see why your head was mixed up at the time."
Yeah, it's really amazing that he thought any of the stuff that he came up with would make people sympathetic towards him,
Right.
especially after reading the chat log.
Right. Right. And of course, when he's talking about the media tries to portray some people in a bad way.
Hmm.
Well, what about the other people? What about the people who are bad?
Well, they're different and they're just bad. He's not bad though.
Hmm. So I
That's
guess,
the problem.
yeah. Well,
The show did catch some bad people, but
hmm,
then some of the other guys had to be Lord, like Michael Patterson.
yeah.
He was going through a divorce.
Yeah. His wife cheated on him.
So he is also the victim in his story.
Yeah. He's a victim of driving 5 hours
hmm
to go and see a decoy.
He
Yeah.
was really messed up,
He
and
was
they
messed up.
took advantage of that.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, let's see what else Lauren has to say about this. Something else that American citizens don't realize is the amount of tax dollars this show causes the federal government to use on arresting, incarceration, food, extra paperwork, court costs, public defenders, probation/parole, transportation, clothing, classes, and electricity. And that's only a few things that I can think of off the top of my head. I wrote the figures down that I figured it was costing for me alone to keep incarcerated compared to other forms of punishment. Now, before this, I've always kept a clean record with the exception of a DUI that I received 2 years before this. The legal limit was zero point zero 0.08, and my blood level was 0.09878. I was barely over the legal limit, and the drug that I was using was Bud Light beer, a very legal drug. It's sad to think that I've always believed in the American justice system until now. I agree very much with the purpose of the show when they're out to catch actual predators. That is all in capital letters and in quotes. Unfortunately, they've proved that their intentions are out to catch anyone they can so that they can make a show.
Okay, so Lauren brings up a really good point here
Yes.
that show cost um, a lot of money from used up a lot of tax dollars from the American citizens. Arresting criminals costs way too much money. So the
Mm-hmm.
solution is let's not arrest criminals.
Yes. Correct.
I mean, they're fucking the American citizens over with this show. Do you want to spend your tax dollars housing criminals? I mean, I do. I think
Yes.
that's a good use. I know exactly. I think that's a pretty good use of
Yeah.
our taxes
Mm-hmm.
to keep unsafe people off the street. It's really
Yes,
funny, right?
please.
Right.
Take my
He thinks
money.
that's really funny. He thinks he's making a point, and people are going to be like, "Oh my God, they're right. If they let Lauren go, we'll have to pay less taxes."
Yeah, I know. I know.
That made me laugh out loud. Oh, and his DUI, the drug he was using? Bud Light beer.
Ha ha.
That's
You
a
can
very legal
tell.
drug.
Yeah, you can tell he was writing that with a lot of sarcasm behind it. Like, you know
hmm
what? You know, this drug that I was using, it was beer, and that's
hmm
legal.
It is. Nobody's disputing that it's legal. It is not legal to drive when you've been drinking, though.
Yes.
That's the problem.
Excellent point. A round of applause. Yes,
Yeah.
that is
He
an
also
excellent
forgot
point.
to mention some of the interesting details of that DUI, like the fact that
Oh,
he crashed into a house.
yes. Yeah, we saw the accident crime scene.
We did.
We did, and it looked pretty intense. Yeah,
So how is the show supposed to, I'm looking at the actual predators, all in caps and in quotes.
yeah.
How is the show supposed to differentiate between actual predators and people like Lorne, who were just vulnerable at the time?
They're supposed to just know, I guess, because his thinking is always that they talked me into it, and I think that he's probably imagining that a real predator isn't going to have to be talked into it.
I think you're right. I also think, and he said this, that they never dissuaded him from doing this. So
Correct.
a real predator, the decoy would have said, this is against the law and it's a really bad thing. And then the predator says, well, I don't care. I want to do it anyway because I'm a predator.
Right.
That's when they should be arrested. So the decoy should have given them a chance to back out
Mm-hmm.
by telling them that it's illegal and they will get arrested.
Yes. Have a
And the fact that
statement
they,
almost like reading the Miranda rights.
right.
This
And
is
if
your
they, since they
opportunity.
didn't, yeah, it's entrapment if you don't do that.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it's always funny to me too when he brings up his blood level,
Hmm.
because I mean it's a pretty big difference. It's so crazy when he thinks, oh, it's just a couple of sips. No, it isn't.
Hmm.
It's not a couple of sips.
Right,
He
because
was
it's
he
just
was
one
wasted.
digit or almost two digits above the legal limit. So that must mean it's just a sip or two.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. So it means two sips.
He right. He was drunk enough that he passed out and went off the road and crashed into a house.
Hmm. And
A couple
also,
sips.
yeah, I mean, so if they took his blood, it's going to take time to do that.
Hmm. Right.
You know. So who knows what time he stopped drinking? There's no way that he was 0.08 or 0.09, the entire time. There's no way.
Hmm.
It's going to go down. Because we know how much he drinks. We know what he's like when he's actually drunk and when he has no problem getting into his car and driving.
Hmm.
He's drunk.
Yeah, he said that he had not had anything to drink for 8 hours before that, which I don't believe for a
No.
second. But that makes it look even worse. You were still that drunk 8 hours later?
Yeah, I know exactly. Exactly. He was hammered.
Yeah, I don't think he should bring up the DUI to make him look like a good guy.
But who doesn't get a DUI? You know?
Everyone does.
Who doesn't?
Everyone
That's
goes to jail.
yeah, that's like a parking ticket.
Yeah, I think right, on his radar, in his opinion, it's not a big deal because his record is free of like violent crimes or sexual crimes. And
Hmm.
that should count
Well,
in this
also,
situation.
I think because it's him too. So he's going to make that exception because
Hmm.
when Roy was drinking and he was driving, he felt strongly enough that he was going to need to call the cops on him.
Hmm.
So he thought that was a big deal, right? He needed to get arrested for his own safety and for everyone else's
Hmm.
safety. But then when it's Lauren's turn, it's you better not call the cops on me.
Hmm.
Everything is different for Lorne. Everything is different.
Yeah, the show exactly. The show did good in catching actual predators, but not it's different for him.
Right. Yeah, it's different for him. Good thing he's writing this.
Well, that's what when he said, the good thing about America is the freedom of speech, but the bad
Mm-hmm.
thing is that the the media can make people look bad. Well, he has his freedom of speech too. He has the chance here to defend himself. This was his chance to
Yeah.
explain and defend himself to the country. And so far, we've gotten um, Aaron and Vern making out,
Mm-hmm.
farting a lot,
Yeah.
fighting over TVs. Um, really interesting stuff that gets you to know Lorne as a person.
Yeah, and people being big babies and making complaints. Um, which that was such a funny part because right before that he said that he made a complaint as
I know.
well. Oh, Lauren.
Yeah, again, it's different for Lorne though.
It's very different. Yes.
He made a mature complaint. The rest of
He
them were
yes.
making baby complaints.
Yes, they were. So it looks like he wants to explain more. So what does he want to explain more?
Let me explain more of what I mean about that. I moved from the Northeast to Tennessee to make a new start and to try to make it in country music. I had gone through some things in my home state that made me want to go where I didn't know anyone and just start over fresh. Obviously, the things that I had gone through was nothing illegal. It was all personal things. I had decided to do something that nobody in their right mind would ever do. I sold my house that I had over $50,000 into for $8,000 back to the people I was buying it from and moved to Tennessee. I had gotten myself set up with a good job and an apartment and had been there for 7 weeks. Obviously, I still hadn't gotten my mind straight from the things I had gone through in my home state and still couldn't think quite straight. However, I was talking in a chat room one day and came across a 13-year-old girl. I had told her to never give her address, phone number, real name, or the school she went to anyone from the internet. I was trying to protect her from the sick people on the internet. These people from perverted justice were really the people I was talking to, but I didn't know it at the time. I had no intention of ever being anything to this girl except for someone who warned her about the dangers of the internet and then to leave her alone.
Oh.
Oh, well, then why is he in jail? He had no intention.
That's a good question. I don't think
I,
he knows why either.
yeah, I think it was an hour in, he showed her his penis.
Yes.
But what counts is that it wasn't his intention from the start.
Mm-hmm.
That happened after.
Right.
And
Yeah.
your intention really matters in criminal cases. The outcome doesn't matter so much.
Right.
Um,
Yes.
it's just whether or not you wanted to do
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
it. So he's got such a funny, stupid way of explaining things. Some personal stuff happened to me. Maybe he hadn't like made it all up quite yet about the personal stuff.
Uh-huh.
Or
He didn't
he,
have his story all ironed out yet.
right, not yet. He was talking about the Betty stuff, I think, but he hadn't figured out a way to spin it without admitting that he took many thousands of dollars from a retired couple.
Yes.
So we're going to get to that part later. He's going to figure that out later.
Right. Yeah.
But again, he's acting like he's some kind of victim or a hero because he decided to sell his house for $8,000 that he had $50,000 into. And I think Lauren's his money or his numbers are super exaggerated.
You
Like
do? What gives you
I
that
do.
idea?
Because I don't think he's ever had $50,000 in his life.
Wait a second.
$50,000. Where'd you
If
get that money, you liar?
in his mind, that's where he got it. He pulled it right from his brain. So I think what he did was he calculated the amount of labor that he did
Mm-hmm.
on this quote unquote house. We don't know what this house looked like when he started working on it and what it looked like after. Those are
Exactly.
two very different things. We know
I think
that.
that's exactly what he did, how he came
Yeah.
up with that crazy number.
If you have $50,000 into a house, show me the receipts.
Hmm.
Show me $50,000 worth of material, perhaps outside labor that you
Hmm.
had to have come in. Where is this $50,000 except for shoved up your ass?
Yeah, it's time. It's
Yeah.
definitely time
Right.
because his materials were from the dump
Yes.
or stolen from some other condemned
Mhm.
structure.
Mhm.
And he's saying, well, if I was on a septic job, I'd be charging $75 an hour.
Yeah.
I'd be charging $250 an hour.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what a dummy.
And
And
what
who
does
cares anyway?
and what does over $50,000 mean? Well, 100,000 is over 50,000,
Right.
right? So what are we talking about here?
And showing that you're bad with money, what does that have to do with anything? That you can't do simple math and you put $50,000 into a house and you sold it for 8,000. What does that have to do with anything? How are you a victim in that scenario? You're just an idiot.
Well, right before that, he said, I had decided to do something that nobody, in all caps and underlined, in their right mind, in all caps and underlined, would ever do.
Okay, so he said that to illustrate how out of his mind he was.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, he was so desperate to get out of where he was at, to go and pursue this dream of country music, that he was willing to throw away $50,000 and only get $8,000 back from the people that he was buying it from. That situation is so sketchy to me. He's never been able to properly explain this rental that he was doing. From what I recall, this house, quote unquote house,
Mm.
was owned by his brother's friend. And his brother may have been living in there and then made an offer to Lorne that he could take over and this could be a rent to own type of a situation.
Hmm.
But then he found out that his brother or the property owner was behind on their taxes,
Hmm. Yeah, I think so.
right? So where did that land? Do you remember? Did he have to pay extra or something to resolve all of that or what
I
was
think
that?
he did, and that was an example of how his family fucked him over.
Okay.
Somehow, I can't remember the exact story, but something like that. Yeah, it cost him money.
Okay. So did these people hand him $8,000 when he was moving out?
Yeah, good question. I mean, because he needed money to get an apartment down there. I don't know how much his apartment was.
Mhm.
Um, but he would have had living expense. Well, he bought a truck, didn't he?
He did.
But I
Yeah.
thought he bought that with Betty's money.
He did. But it wasn't expensive though. I think he said that it was only a couple of $1,000s. It wasn't like a brand new,
Hmm.
truck. I think it was something purchased, that was older.
So where did this $8,000 go then? Because he had no money by the time he was talking to Kayla.
Right. Well,
He couldn't.
I think a great majority of the money that he had from Betty did not go to him. I think a lot of the money went to his brothers and also to Tony. And then he would have had to use it to also travel.
Hmm.
So he didn't have a big chunk of change. It's not like Lorne walked out of there with 30 grand. He didn't. He was responsible for that 30 grand. So, of course, he mismanaged that.
Hmm.
But he didn't have that when he left. It's not like he had that in his pocket and then was able to, drive down to Nashville with no problem. I think that he was pretty he was pretty strapped for cash. That's why he's talking about going to the work today, pay today place.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's talking about having to go out and get a job, and he just grabbed whatever he could, which was that desk job of calling for the fire department benefit concert. So he grabbed whatever he could, and then he was able to land that construction job right before he got arrested. So I think that he was pretty short on cash. Well, we also know that too because number one, he didn't have anything in that apartment, nothing,
Yeah, not even a bed.
not even a bed, exactly. And I believe that there was a time when he talked about perhaps his internet getting shut off.
Yeah, he said either the phone or internet would go down or something
Mm-hmm.
because he hadn't paid the bill.
Right. And also with his cell phone, he didn't have any minutes.
Yeah, he had nothing. He had no money. He
Mm-hmm.
was worried about having enough money for gas.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
So then
mhm.
what happened to that 8 grand from the house that
Well,
he sold?
here's what I'm thinking may have happened. So he had paid into that rent to own agreement, perhaps $8,000, and then just didn't get it back.
Okay, I see.
So he's looking at it like I gave them or they, let's see. I'm trying to work it out. The story just doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
So he had over $50,000. He sold it back for 8,000. So,
Well, that would imply that he got the money then.
yeah, it does imply that, but I just don't really see that happening. Do you? I don't see
No.
I don't see him being in a rental. And then because he had to move pretty quickly. I don't
Hmm.
know the exact amount of time that all of this took place. I know that it didn't just happen in one day. But how is it that they would have given him $8,000?
Well, they wouldn't. I mean, because even if it was a rent to own and he said, "Well, I'm not gonna," I mean, he still would have had to pay rent. You can't just live somewhere for free. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't, why would they give him $8,000 back? And if he had $8,000 in his pocket at any time, I feel like he would still tell the story about how he, well, how it was when he was rich with
Yeah,
$8,000 in his pocket.
that is true.
I don't know. Maybe he'll elaborate, but I somehow doubt it.
Yeah, I kind of feel like this is all we're going to get about that because that's really the story that he's been telling pretty consistently.
Hmm.
He doesn't give a lot of detail in how that was all working out.
So is that the place when I remember him talking to Ramona and he said, I owned 11 acres. You see how much I lost
Probably.
before this thing?
Yeah.
So he didn't own anything.
No, he didn't. I would say that's likely what it is because
Yeah.
I can't recall of him ever having anything else.
No, once he built himself a house in his sister's driveway.
That is incredible. That is incredible. Imagine you have a sibling that's like, "Hey, can I live in your driveway?" And you're like, "Well, how are you going to do that?" They're like, "No, no, no. I'm going to build something
Hmm.
and I'm going to live there. I'm like a survivor."
Like a mountain man.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm a mountain man. All I need is to go to the dump. I'll be right back.
Just get a tent at that point.
I know. But he did have it all set up in there. It was very strange.
Oh, did he? Did it?
I remember
Didn't that?
seeing one picture of the inside.
Oh, really? That's so
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, it's out there somewhere. Um, but I mean, it just looks like particle board.
Uh-huh.
That's just or plywood, just kind of
Right.
standing. Um, But yeah, I remember seeing there. I do believe there was a window because,
So it's a shed with a window.
yeah, he built like a little shack.
Okay, so but obviously he'd have to go into the house to like use the bathroom or kitchen or something, like
I would
electricity.
imagine. Yeah, I don't know
Maybe he
what the
ran an
electric
extension
was.
cord.
He could have. I can see him doing that.
I bet you he did.
Definitely.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
got a 5-gallon bucket in the corner. Or he's just peeing in her yard.
Definitely. Yes. He definitely was going to the bathroom outside
I wonder
for
why she
sure.
made him move it or like get rid of it.
Um I know. That's really selfish.
It is. I mean,
You
who
know.
cares what your neighbors think about
Right.
your brother living in this shed,
I
pissing
know.
in your yard?
I know. I know. Who's that weird little man that's living in the little house?
How embarrassing.
I know. I know. So yeah, so of course we have the country music dream.
Hmm.
So that's the only reason that he was going to Tennessee. Make a new start and try to make it in country music. Poor guy.
He was doing really good too until perverted justice came along.
He was. He was networking. He got a card from a producer, allegedly,
Hmm.
quote
Hmm.
unquote producer. But yeah, he was making things happen. And yeah. Didn't he say that there was an old couple that wanted his picture?
Yes, I remember something about that.
Yeah. Cool. Cool,
Cool.
Lord. Yeah. I wonder if they have that. That'd be really funny.
I know.
If they had it. All right. So, perverted justice kept me talking and found that I was vulnerable because of the things I had been going through. So, they played on that and got me to talk sexual to the girl and talked me into coming to Bowling Green, Kentucky to her house after I told them no several different times. Perverted Justice had used guilt trips and anything else they could to get me to finally come to this house in Bowling Green, Kentucky. They had even sent me 11 or 12 pictures that weren't even the same girl. I couldn't see it at the time, even though it was very plain to see that the pictures were of different girls. The only thing that I was able to see was that someone was giving me attention that had to do with me. It could have been an 80-year-old lady, and I would have reacted the same way. As sad as that may sound, it's even more sad to know that I was that far out of it. I always wondered how it could be that a person could be so far gone in the head that it would make him do something stupid. Now that I've been here, I can see how it's possible.
He just went insane.
He
He
did,
was
yes.
temporarily absolutely insane.
Mm-hmm.
So insane that he couldn't even see that they sent him 11 or 12 pictures of different girls. He did see it
He
and he
did,
pointed it out
yeah.
to her,
Right, he did.
but it's because he was so out of his mind. He can't explain it. He was just out of it.
He was definitely out of it,
Just
yes.
out of it. It could have been an 80-year-old lady, but it wasn't.
It wasn't, and he wouldn't have been interested in talking to an 80-year-old lady. We know
Right.
that.
Okay, if it could have been an 80-year-old lady, um, could it have been a 20-year-old man?
No.
No. Could it have been a 6-year-old girl?
Yes.
I mean, because that's what he's saying. Like, it could have been anyone if they were giving me attention. It's sad to say, but it could have been anyone.
Right. Right. So it
So, I
was,
mean,
well, the thing is, too, is that he was reaching out to girls.
hmm,
We know that based on the other decoys that he was reaching out to.
yeah, I'd be interested to see, was he reaching out to 80-year-old ladies or
Guaranteed
60-year-old
not.
ladies,
No,
50-year-old ladies?
no.
No.
He was looking at their profiles
Hmm.
and he was seeing who's in here. He wasn't just going down the list and saying hi to everybody. That's such a horseshit. Why would you do
Hmm.
that? He's
No,
not
you're
going to. And I remember him being asked too, like, well, why were you saying hello to everybody? Were you wanting to talk to everybody? Were you expecting them to answer? No. Okay, well, then why were you doing it?
I don't know.
I know.
I don't know why I did it.
That's the type of a response he would give.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, what he's saying here too, that perverted justice kept him talking and found that he was vulnerable because of the things he was going through. What did he tell Kayla that would have made perverted justice aware of what he was going through? Did he talk about Betty?
No.
No. I know that he said that his siblings were idiots and she could have them, right?
Yeah, I think he also said they screwed him out of money or something, or like,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So, what's so vulnerable about that?
Right, exactly. How does that make you? You are a grown man. How does that make you vulnerable?
Right. And then also, when it said where they got me to talk sexual to a girl, and they had played on that vulnerability in order to get him to do that, where was his vulnerability displayed in that first hour?
Right, it wasn't.
Right.
Well, and he also said he told them no multiple times, which we know he never did. Which that really interests me um about his defense, or defense not in court, but his defense of himself. He insisted for years that he told her no, and that he um only started talking sexually once this emotional connection was established. Did he just never go back and look at his chat log? He must have just been so avoidant.
Yeah.
Like he just didn't dare to look at it because it's easier to try to convince himself of this shit in his head, because just one glance at that first page would have thrown that out the window.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
Like,
don't think that he did. Why would he?
well, I mean, as far like, I guess he's just counting on the fact that the people that he's saying this to would never read the chat log, because
Yeah.
I mean, he couldn't try to say that in court because they would refer to the chat log.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're going to try to make up an excuse or a lie, at least look at the verifiable evidence that other people can see and then craft your excuses and lies around it, not completely contradicting what's there. It's there.
He had said when he was in jail, he skimmed through it because he was looking for where he said no. So I don't think that he read it, from the very first line to the very last. I don't think he did that. But I think that he's looking for things that aren't as direct either, so it's a bit of a stretch. So when he was talking about where he said no, he pointed out a couple of things where it was said that no, I could go to jail.
Hmm.
But he wasn't talking about no, I'm not going to do this. I could go to jail. It's not the right thing to do. I'm going to block you now. That never happened. So
No.
all that he was referring to with that was, I can't get caught.
Right.
Because
We
if
need
I
to be
do,
careful.
yes, we need to be really careful. That's exactly right. He was more concerned that Kayla was a stupid kid
Hmm.
and was going to be reckless, not delete her archives, leave her, her screen on, and that her parents were somehow going to see that he had to take extra steps to make sure that he was explaining to her, listen, if you are not careful, I'm going to go to jail.
Hmm.
That is a really big deal. Don't screw it up. You have to listen to me and you have to do what I say, just do it. That was the type of conversation that he was having
Yeah. Trust
when,
me.
yeah, trust me. And also when he wanted to give her his PN
Hmm.
and was like, I'm not giving that to you here, which he did.
I know.
But when he was saying, you have to get an email account, don't ask me why, just do it.
We have to pretend we're breaking up on here.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny because he was so out of his mind at the time,
Yeah.
but he was within his right frame of mind to come up with all these little plans to try to
Right.
avoid getting caught. That's just what's really interesting is that he can say these things with such direct evidence to the contrary.
Mm-hmm.
That he can just convince himself that that's the truth.
He has a very interesting way of doing that. I think that's what he does with most things.
Hmm.
I think he convinces himself.
Me
And
too.
yeah, and he'll say it out loud to other people to try to convince them as well that reality is what he's telling you. When we know that that's not the case. It's like
Hmm.
if you want to know how somebody feels about Lorne, you have to get that information from them, not him. So, for example, like when he's talking about his relationship with probation, and I remember he was asked, like, do they bust your balls all the time? You know, are they on your ass all the time? Like, what is that like? And he basically said, no, they're fine. Like, I don't do anything wrong. And you know that's not true. They don't see him as this harmless person who is, who made a mistake and now he's on probation. They don't see him like that.
Hmm.
It's even like when he was talking about his probation modifications that he had to sign. Now, it wasn't known that those were modifications when he was speaking about them because they hadn't been seen yet. So he's just talking about how he would get in trouble for like drinking, for example. They would drag him into the office, they would talk to him and they would have him sign a paper. And you ask him, "Well, what was the paper?" And he can't explain that to you. He's like, "Oh, I don't know. I didn't read it."
It's my
I mean,
apology paper
yeah, exactly.
saying I'm sorry.
Right. And you know that when probation was speaking to him, they're going to explain all of it to him. They're not just going to throw a piece of paper and say, "Here, sign that."
Yeah.
They're going to have to explain it. And then after knowing that what he was signing wasn't simply an acknowledgement, like, yes, I was here today and they talked to me. It was modifying the terms of his probation, a legal
Hmm.
document. He doesn't explain that part. And so I think that's just one example of how he will also try to express, a different reality from what actually is.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense when he can lie when there's no other available evidence for someone to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Like then yeah, you can say whatever you want. But the chat log is people can access that and read it and
Yeah.
see what he said.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's just it's really interesting to me. But I do think that he convinces himself. He really convinces himself um, that he's a good person and he's actually the victim in
Yeah.
all this stuff and he never even meant to do it and he never would have done it. I
Yeah.
mean, I remember when he was talking to Ramona, he insisted that he had never ever talked to an underage girl before the
Oh,
decoy
yeah.
ever.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think he just wasn't even thinking about his real victim. I think he wasn't even thinking about Molly. So when he said that, he thought he was telling the truth.
I'm wondering too, it could be. I'm also wondering though, because there was no true evidence of Molly, even though it
Hmm.
was in the chat log. That's how it became known, was because he
Right.
mentioned her himself. But there wasn't anything else that was known about her at the time
Hmm.
that there's that point where he can, just like you were saying, if there's no evidence of something, then how are you going to know? except for the fact that Lorne's probably lying about it.
Well, he did lie to Winnie. When
Mm-hmm.
they were reading the chat log and they got to the point where he mentioned Molly, Winnie innocently asked him, how old is Molly? He said, oh, she was 18, something like it. And
Mm-hmm.
he absolutely, you could tell he was lying. I mean, we
Yeah.
know he's lying, but you could hear it in his voice
Mm-hmm.
because he knew how bad that made him look.
Yeah, and you can hear it too when he was asked about it again.
Oh, I know. The second
Mm-hmm.
reading of the chat log,
Yeah.
definitely.
And then when how defensive he got
hmm
when he was asked, you were a friend to a little girl. She was a friend. He didn't want to talk about that.
No, he didn't. Well, he got defensive when Ember said that Molly had um, posted about him on the forums
Mm-hmm.
and come out and said that Lorne was inappropriate with her.
Yes.
And Lorne said, well, she was too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yep.
not just all him. She was doing something inappropriate too by showing her underage
Right.
body to
Right.
the man who was asking her to see it.
Right.
I think that's what he thinks a predator. I mean, we've talked about this. That's what a predator is, someone who um, is going to do it even when they're told no,
Mm-hmm.
who's going to force somebody to do something. If
Mm-hmm.
she's going along with it, then he's not a predator.
Right. And then also remember that Lorne thinks that he's a good guy.
hmm
He thinks that he's offering these girls a relationship, someone who loves them, someone who's going to be good for them. That's what he thinks he's offering. So a predator is not going to offer that. They're just after sex
hmm
and that's it. And they're going to hurt them and then move on.
Right.
But with him, he has special relationships. That's what he has.
hmm
And I think that's really how he sees it, which is disturbing.
It is. I mean, I think that's a common thing. I think I told you the story before about a guy at my work who said he had a 15-year-old girlfriend when he was in his
Yes.
20s,
Mhm.
but it was okay because he made sure she went to school every day.
Right.
He was good for her.
Yeah. Yeah, age is just a number sometimes.
Yeah.
There's very mature kids.
They can fall in love too.
They can fall in love too. It's the same thing, as falling in love or having a boyfriend at your school and also have that boyfriend to be 40 years old.
hmm
It's the same thing, according to Lauren. Yeah. So Lauren was vulnerable. Perverted Justice took advantage of that, even though they didn't know anything about his vulnerability
Yeah, they
or
also
what.
guilt tripped him.
They guilt tripped him. Yeah. They basically dragged him there, kicking and screaming with their words.
Yeah. What he's failing to realize, even if all that was true, it wouldn't matter. He still did it.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. He really holds on to the idea that just because you don't know what's in his head, there's no way for you to know that,
hmm
that somehow is a mitigating factor.
Right.
He really holds on to that. Or he will say things like, "You're not going to drag that out of me,"
hmm
or "You're not going to pull that out of me," however he says it. You know, he really holds on to that like as if that's going to make a difference. And it doesn't. It doesn't make any difference. I don't give a shit if the entire time that you were driving to Bowling Green, you were like in tears and crying because you knew that you were doing something awful to a girl. I don't care. You still
Yeah, you
drove
still
up
did it.
there. You still drove
Right.
up there and you walked into the house. So what does it matter what you were thinking or feeling before?
It doesn't matter. What if Kayla was a real 13-year-old girl and she did guilt trip him? It
Right.
wouldn't matter.
Exactly. And we saw that a lot too with Chris confronting the predators who would try to pull that. And
Yeah.
say, well, she told me to. She said she
Yeah.
wanted to or something.
Well,
And
I
he
felt
would say,
bad. Yeah.
yeah. And he would say, well, you're gonna do what a 13-year-old girl tells you to do.
Hmm.
And they do. They try to make it seem like that makes a difference. And he does that too. And so doesn't that make him dangerous though?
If he can be controlled by a child, yep.
Yes.
If he can be controlled into doing something that he does not want to do, committing a crime that he doesn't want to commit by a 13-year-old girl, then yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that would mean that he's dangerous. And I mean, we know that's not the truth. We know he did it because he wanted to. It had nothing to do with what she wanted. He disregarded what she
Absolutely.
wanted all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't help his case. Like what you were so crazy and out of control of your own actions that you could be led to do this by a child, but now
Mm-hmm.
you're better.
Mm-hmm.
Or just counseling, just like outpatient therapy is going to be enough to help you to fix that. Like,
Right.
no. He's talking about how out of his head he was, how messed up he was. Then you maybe should be institutionalized. Like maybe
Mm-hmm.
you need to be locked up,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be in a prison or a hospital or something, because if you he acts like he was just like vacant, like a zombie, being
Mm-hmm.
led by, I don't know, by like mind controlled, you know? Like there's this wasp that will sting cockroaches, and it's able to like hypnotize them, sort of.
Oh,
It's able
really?
to, yeah, it'll sting the cockroach, and then it will, I'm trying to think of the exact sequence of events, but it stings the cockroach. It injects this like venom into it, this like neurotoxin that like makes the cockroach like a zombie, like a mindless zombie.
Mm-hmm.
And then it will break one of their antennas, drink the blood for a little snack, and then lead the zombie cockroach by the antenna to its little den, like its little hole in the ground, and the cockroach just comes, just walks with the wasp into the death den. Then the wasp lays its eggs inside the cockroach. The cockroach is alive the whole time.
Oh
It's
my
just like
God.
mindless zombied. And then the eggs hatch in the body of the cockroach and then eat their way out.
Oh my
Um,
God.
yeah. Well, that's what I'm thinking of. Like Lorne was just a zombie at the time. He had no mind of his own, no free will. That's how he tries to make it sound.
So he's a cockroach, is what you're
He's a
saying.
he's a zombie cockroach, yes.
Very good. Okay. Well,
And if he
I
knew
agree.
that fun fact about nature, maybe he would have used that in his defense. He would have compared himself
Yes.
to the cockroach, and perverted justice was that wasp.
Yeah. He could have told that to Chris.
He could have if he knew it.
Chris would have been stunned. He wouldn't have been asking any questions. He would just be sitting there staring at Lorne.
He'd be like, wow, I feel really bad for you. That's
I know.
awful.
I know.
But I mean, we've all been through stuff. We've
Mm-hmm.
all had bad stuff happen. Have you ever had something? I mean, and honestly, it's like a minor inconvenience. Like my family is annoying and they ask me for money and I feel bad saying no. Have you ever had something happen to you that made you completely lose control of your entire life for a month
No.
and have no say in what you did?
No.
No, me either.
No.
Me
And,
either.
and Lorne didn't have that happen either.
No, he didn't. I know. Of course not. It's funny
Right.
that he thinks he can tell that story and people will be sympathetic and be like, "Oh yeah, I remember. I remember when that happened to me.
Yeah.
I lost my job. I was so upset that I was talked into raping kids.
Wow.
I remember when that happened. Like, who the fuck thinks like that?
That must have been really hard on you.
You poor thing. Those kids were preying on you.
I know. I know, exactly. Well, it is laughable, too, that he would say it could have been an 80-year-old lady. That is
But it
laughable.
wasn't. Yeah.
Right, it wasn't, and it never would have been.
Right. Why wasn't it, Lauren?
Yeah. There's plenty of people that I'm sure were in those chat rooms. It wasn't a teeny
Hmm.
bopper chat room,
Right.
right? It's for adults.
Yeah, he happened to find the only teenager in an adult chat room
Yeah, the
whenever
only
that happened.
teenagers.
Yeah. I know that's another point of evidence. They can see that he reached out to other girls.
Yeah. But
He
he
just
denies
forgets that.
it. He
Hmm.
denies it. He says he didn't do it.
He also tried when Ramona was playing the decoy phone calls to him, he tried to say they were manufactured. They took snippets of his voice
Uh
and made him
huh.
say those things.
Yeah, he said that as well with phone calls that probation has heard.
Hmm.
I believe in the one that they heard where he was intoxicated, of course, that was a problem for them.
Hmm.
And I think one of his defenses to that was, well, they made that
Yeah. Oh
call.
my God.
People can do things with voices on the internet these days.
Even
That crazy
Obama.
tech. That's right. Yes.
Do you remember that phone call?
I
He was
do.
he was being confronted about something, probably cheating, I think, on winning, maybe. I can't remember exactly, but he
Uh-huh.
tried to say that that call was manufactured, and they even do it to President Obama. And if they can do it to President Obama, they're going to do it to Lauren.
That's right. That's right. Oh my God, I do remember that.
You know what's funny though? Now with AI, we could do that.
Yes,
You
that's very
could
true.
feed the hours of Lauren's phone calls into I mean, I don't know how it works, but there's enough material of Lauren talking that I bet they could do that and make him say anything.
Yeah, you know how there's prank phone calls,
Hmm.
um, and they call different businesses using the Lorne soundboard. I think that Crank Cinema.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, um, yeah, and they use the Lorne soundboard. That has all the
Follow me.
classics. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, exactly. Okay, sing to me, and the person's like, "What?" um, so there's that, which of course is a lot harder to do, because you've got to make it, fit in with another side of a conversation that has no idea, and you only
Hmm.
have a set amount of things that are said. But with the AI, though, imagine what could be done. Oh my gosh. Oh,
Yeah,
geez.
he was a little ahead of the times back
He
then when
was,
he's doing.
yes.
Yeah.
You know, we do say that Lorne is an ideas guy.
Mm.
He's got all the ideas in the world. He doesn't know how to execute them, and many of them are stupid ideas,
Hmm.
but he has a lot of them. And that was one, and he was way ahead of his time.
They can do a lot of things with technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even create an AI catfish.
Yeah,
Wouldn't that be interesting?
it
Only
would
time
be.
will tell.
Yeah, somebody
Yeah.
try it.
So then, okay, so now he wants to talk about another guy. Who is this other guy?
Well, it is, I'm going to say Michael Patterson,
Okay.
his bestie in there. They were
Mm-hmm.
both lured, they were both vulnerable, they were both suing the fuck out of NBC
They were, yes.
for what they did to them.
Yeah.
So he says another guy that got caught up in this same thing was going through marital problems and was separated because his wife had cheated on him after 6 months of being married. He had told perverted justice no several different times too, but they kept on him until he gave in. Chris Hansen said that they simply afford people the opportunity. That's nothing but a load of cow manure coming from a mouth that gets paid to lie. What they do is they find people that are vulnerable and talk them into committing a crime so that they can make a television show and bring in a paycheck. I've received 60 months from the feds for a sentence at 85% and 7 years from the state of Kentucky for a sentence at 20%. I now have to register as a sex offender for life with the feds and be on supervised release for at least 2 years after my 60 months of incarceration. And for the state, I have to register as a sex offender for 20 years after my release and be on probation for 5 years.
All right.
Chris Hansen's right. They just give you the opportunity. That's all.
Right. And you took it.
And he took it, right?
You took it multiple times.
And it's reminding me of when Lauren said, they just had to put that girl right there in front of me. They
Uh-huh.
knew I was vulnerable. Yeah, yes, because it's better that a decoy was put there and you took that opportunity than a real little girl.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were so vulnerable, then what if you were talking to a real child? How would it have been? The only difference would have been you would have met that child and not Chris Hansen at the door of her house.
Yeah.
I just don't. How is it a load of cow manure? How is Chris Hansen lying? It's very succinct, it's perfectly said. He just gives you the opportunity and you took it.
Well, that's the problem that he has with it. Is that with an opportunity, you can take it or leave it.
Hmm.
And with him, he's trying to say that he was trying to push away that opportunity. That opportunity was coming after him.
Okay. Well, same with Michael Patterson. He said no.
Yeah.
They both said no.
Yeah, he said no several times. I'd be really curious to see his chat log.
Yeah, I've never read it,
I never
but
have either.
I'm gonna bet you $50,000 that I put into my rent to own property that he does not tell her no.
Now, is that really $50,000? Because I'm going to need to
Well,
see receipts for that.
I spent a lot of time,
Yeah.
so yeah, yes,
Okay. All right. Well, I'll believe you.
should.
You know, construction staff. So yeah, but you're right. Chris Hansen did say they simply afford people the opportunity. Of all the people that were in that chat room, not every single person reached out to them. That's where that opportunity comes in. You
Hmm.
took it, Lorne. You took it with Kayla. You took it with Kimmy Kimmy. You took it with
Hmm.
Disney Girl. If there were 5 others in there, you would have taken it with them too. You know what I wish would have happened? I wish they would have allowed the other conversations to continue.
Hmm.
Because could you imagine Lorne trying to juggle 3 13-year-old girlfriends? I would have loved to see that happen where he would have to make himself invisible. He would have to schedule times when he was going to
Hmm.
be on cam with whomever. And then he would have to try to come up with an excuse as to why he's not with the other one.
Hmm.
Would that be funny?
It would be.
But yet, we would all know how that would play out because then it would be released and we could see him like the timestamps of where he was talking to certain people and when he wasn't because he was
Hmm.
then talking to another person. You could jump between chat logs.
I know that would be great.
That would be great. Yeah. And also to see if they had different personalities as well and how he would
Yeah,
adapt to those personalities.
right. That would be really interesting. Yeah, because Kayla was super submissive and like timid and easily led,
Mm-hmm.
easy to manipulate. Yeah, what if there was a girl that was a little bit more feisty, more spirited,
Yes.
like um, a little harder to control or a little more take charge. It would be interesting to see how he navigated that relationship.
What do you think he would do?
Um, it's hard to say. I think he really liked that Kayla was so um, childlike and easy to manipulate
Mm-hmm.
and would just go along with whatever he said, never questioned him really. I think he
Mm-hmm.
really liked that.
Yeah.
Um, mostly because it illustrated her age. Um, but yeah, I wonder how he would act with a bolder girl. I think there'd be a lot more insecurity, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he had a more confident girl, I think he'd be more worried about her with boyfriends. I think he would try to like tame her and teach her how a girlfriend's supposed to be. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, you're not going out with your friends tonight. You need to stay home and wait for my call.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you need to stay home and talk on the computer with me all night. Or, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. What do you think?
I agree that he loved Kayla's innocence, as he said
Hmm.
and also incorrectly spelled. But that's what he really liked about her. He celebrated how small she was and how also just in personality as well, how small and meek,
Hmm.
and how she just would follow everything, and he knew that she was inexperienced and that she was going to just say okay to everything that he said. It would be really interesting to see how he would be, just like you said, with somebody who was a little bit more, who was a
Hmm.
little bit more feisty, who talked back a little bit, who was more out there as far as her sexual curiosity. You know,
Hmm.
she had a couple of boyfriends already who were a little bit older. Maybe she drank. Maybe she would go to parties.
Yeah. Oh, man.
That type of stuff. He would lose his mind over
Yeah.
that, definitely. Um,
Or, yeah.
mhm. Go ahead.
I was thinking if she was like more sexually experienced too,
Yes.
he'd be worried about her with the boys at school.
Hmm.
I think he would be super jealous and psychotic like he is with all the
Yes,
catfish.
yes. And so when he asks about, the boys at school, like, oh, the boys at school must be so stupid. You're so pretty. And she'd be like, well, what are you talking about? They ask me out all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I have 5 guys right now that are constantly after me.
Hmm.
He would not like
Yeah,
that.
I think Kayla was pretty trustworthy in his book
Yeah.
as far as girlfriends go. Like he would still drill her about Derek,
Mm-hmm.
but it seemed pretty clear from Kayla's personality that she wasn't going to sneak off in the bathroom at Maria's house with Derek and like
Mm-hmm.
get it on. That kind of
Right.
stuff wasn't going to happen. But yeah, you're right. What if it was a girl who maybe would go to parties and drink and there's boys all over them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he'd be crazy about it.
And then also, remember how toward the end, when he was talking to Kayla, he would get annoyed with her as well,
Hmm.
with her saying sorry. At first he was like, what are you so sorry? What are you sorry for? And then after, he's like, sorry for what?
Hmm.
So I think after a while, it did grate on his nerves. He was fine with it. He'll deal with that because he feels like he knows Kayla and he knows that she will follow his lead.
Hmm.
Um, so he's also happy that she's going to give him the opportunity to go over there as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wish they would have let those conversations go just to see how he managed it.
Hmm.
You know.
Well, and it would throw his whole someone was caring about me bullshit out. So we'd have to see what else he'd come up with for an excuse for dating
Mm-hmm.
two little girls in
Right.
the same chat room.
Right. Exactly.
I was extra vulnerable.
Yeah, he was extra vulnerable. He was 36 years old and had to juggle these women online.
Hmm.
It's hard life. So now he's going to talk a little bit more about his sentence. So, as far as me getting 60 months for a sentence from the feds, that's nothing but a crock of crap, too. I should have gotten a sentence of 46 months because it was on the low end of my guideline range. 57 months was at the high end. I had a digital camera in the glove box of my truck that also had a disc to go with it to download the camera hardware onto computers, and the cord that plugged in from the camera to the computer for when you're transferring from the camera to the computer. Okay. The reason the camera was in my truck was because I had tried to pawn it a few days before. I just never took it out of my truck when I returned from the pawn shop, rejecting pawning it. The reason they wouldn't take it on pawn from me is because the cover that holds the batteries in place was broke. The prosecutors for the feds came up with an offer of 60 months and told me that if I didn't plead guilty and accept their offer, then they were going to go after me for attempted production of CP, which holds a 15-year sentence if I lost. Just the thought of the prosecution's accusation made me sick to my stomach. It really depressed me to think that this was the way the justice system worked in the United States.
I mean, as we know, it wasn't just the camera being in his glove box that contributed to that charge being threatened. And I wonder if he genuinely forgot that the stuff he said in the chat log about taking pictures.
I would agree with that. It's possible that he did. Yes. Yeah. Because remember, during that time, first of all, it was a month. Do you remember what you said last month?
No,
definitely not. Yeah. I said a lot of dumb shit. That's what
Right.
I know. But yeah, you're not going to remember every single detail. He was speaking to her for a month and he was super, super horny. He was jingling his balls in his dick like the entire time that he was talking to her. So I don't think that he was 100% paying attention to the conversation. They weren't having some deep conversation. It was very basic. It was very surface level and was all about his dick and how much she wanted it and how much she liked it. And does she like his dick or his balls better? I mean, could you imagine getting that question? I mean, what kind of a question is that?
I know. Who the fuck asks that question?
I know. You would have to immediately step away.
And what is the correct answer? Is there a wrong answer in Lauren's mind?
That is good.
That
is a good question. Yeah,
I don't think there can be a wrong answer.
Oh, you must really like my balls, huh?
What do you like about them? I can't put my balls inside you.
Oh my God. Yes, exactly. You just captured that response perfectly.
Well, maybe I can. We can try. I'm going to sleep with my balls inside you all night long.
Oh my God. What a threat, huh?
I know. Enough to just make you squeeze your legs together in protection mode.
Yes, exactly.
Get away.
That is so funny though. That is exactly the response. What do you like about them? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Yeah,
what's there to like?
Well, come on now.
Those are the hottest balls I've ever seen.
Oh my God. Could you imagine? So if she had answered that and said, your balls, could you imagine how many times he would be showing his balls? Like,
I know, like stretching them out and wagging them around.
The wagging is what kills me.
Want to see the underside?
Oh my God. What if he was showing them from behind and like stood up and like had his legs spread and then was like trying to make him go back and forth so she could see?
Oh my God. I'm surprised he didn't. And he's like looking over, like around his
Yeah.
legs, like looking over at her,
Yeah.
at the monitor. Can you see him?
Oh my God. Right,
Want me to
because
do it again?
and every single time he would have to turn around to type though, because he wasn't on a microphone. So we'd
Oh, is
have
it
to
right?
do it and then look and see if she's saying, "Are you watching? Are you watching?" And like would have to type constantly and then go back to it and do it a few more times. That'd be funny.
It would be.
I should have had him do
Missed
that.
opportunity.
I know, I know. Hindsight is always 2020, right?
Hmm. But I mean, with that, like, I'm as uncomfortable as it would be.
Mm-hmm.
You would think if Lawrence got 20 years on the line, he would go and read the damn evidence.
True.
If somebody said, Amanda James, you said something in your last video
Mm-hmm.
that we made, and you're going to jail for it. I don't remember what I said in our last video. I don't know.
Right.
But I have the luxury of having it. I could listen to it. I could listen to every word.
Mm-hmm.
I would go back and listen to exactly what they have against me and then, craft my defense or whatever around what I actually said. So I just think if I were in that position, I would read the fucking chat log.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. And the other thing is too is that he's talking about it's so depressing that this is the way the justice system works that they told him if he didn't take their offer that they were going to go after him for that massive charge, then go to trial, Lorne.
Yeah.
You had that opportunity.
Hmm.
You even talked about it after the fact that you could have gone or you should have gone or that they'd be sorry if you took it to trial and all of that kind of stuff. Then go to trial. That's the whole
Well,
purpose of it. They have to prove that to you and well
right,
to the jury.
right, right. If the only evidence that he was going to create CP was the camera in the glove box, if that was it, and he felt that he could prove that he had tried to pawn the camera and that wasn't in his plans when he
Mm-hmm.
was going to the Sting house, then why not take it to trial and prove that and get that charge thrown out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's,
Exactly.
I don't know, it's just baffling. I don't, the way his
It
brain
is.
works.
And it's
But
frustrating too.
it is. It's really frustrating because he's stupid. Because it's stupid. But what's really frustrating is, and he's said this many times over the years, that basically the prosecutor is disgusting for suggesting that. The prosecutor has a dirty mind. It's
Mm-hmm.
disgusting the way their mind works.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you see a camera and you think I'm going to create CP. What a pervert you are. That's
Mm-hmm.
disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah, it really opened his eyes to how gross the justice system is
Hmm.
from that moment. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that they would read his words and take them on face value.
right.
Disgusting.
Yeah, exactly. They would read his words and they say, "Oh, there's a camera. He brought a camera with him." And be able to put those things together to say, "This is the charge we're going to put to him because of that."
Hmm.
If that wasn't there, if you didn't say it, they wouldn't have been able to do that. I
Right.
think, it certainly would have been a lot weaker.
Yeah, because like he said, his cell phone had the capability to take pictures.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm sure there were other guys who showed up to the house who had a phone that could take
Mm-hmm.
pictures, and they didn't get that charge if they didn't
Mm-hmm.
say anything about it in their chat.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It was the fact that he said it.
Right.
So, I mean, you're doing all of the things in order to have them put that charge to you.
Hmm.
So, they made this plea agreement in order to not do that. And now you're going to be complain about it and say that that's not fair. And then also for him to say that he should have gotten the least amount that was in the guideline.
Well, yeah, he's only ever had a DUI.
That's true. That's true. He's a couple of sips. For a couple of sips, he got the high end of the range.
No, he got the high end of the range instead of getting 15 to 20 years
Right.
for the attempted production charge.
Right. Exactly. Okay, so it looks like he's going to talk about the camera. So why don't you tell us what that says?
I told my federal appointed defender's investigator that the pawn shop I was in to pawn the camera had video cameras, and that could prove that I was in the pawn shop with the camera. The guy just shrugged it off without trying. I figured with a defense team like that, I would be safer to plead guilty and take the 60-month offer rather than take my chances at losing 15 years of my life because of the poor defender I had and the disgusting accusation from the prosecution. I am in no means rejecting responsibility on my part.
Oh, okay.
Not at all. I allowed myself to be talked into attempting to do this disgusting crime that should actually be considered a entrapment.
Okay, wait a second. So we have a little bit of a contradictory
A little
statement.
bit. A little bit. I'm not avoiding responsibility here at all, but it was actually entrapment and not my
Okay.
fault.
Okay, got
But
it.
he allowed himself to be entrapped. That's where he's going to take responsibility.
Yes. Yep, exactly.
What I'm saying is that if MSNBC Dateline is going to do such a show as this, then they and their affiliates, perverted justice, need to be sure they're catching actual predators, not taking advantage of someone's mental or emotional state of mind and talking them into doing something they wouldn't normally do.
Simply,
Simply, I think, yeah,
yeah.
to help their ratings for a television show and to help put money in their pockets. If someone is an actual predator, they will be out there looking for it. They won't have to be talked into doing this crime. What's even worse is that the United States government would allow a major television network to do such a thing and not have rules and regulations set up for such a thing. I like seeking justice done too, but I like seeing justice done too, but I like seeing honest justice, not paycheck and ratings justice.
Wow.
Way
All
to take
right.
responsibility, Lauren.
Way to take responsibility. Yeah, he didn't do that very well.
So again, it's about differentiating between the actual predators and Lorne, who was sad,
Yeah.
and Michael Patterson, who was sad. Real
Yes.
predators aren't sad, they're happy. They're
They are happy. They're happily committing their crime.
right. There's nothing wrong in their life, there's nothing going on that might upset them, and they're out there looking for it. Lorne wasn't out there looking for it,
No.
even though he was.
Well, okay. But he wasn't in a teeny bopper chat room.
That's true. So he was entrapped. He was talked into committing a crime.
He was. Yeah.
She said K and cool and yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. OMG, really? that really that really sealed the deal right there. Definitely entrapment. He wasn't having a conversation with himself that entire time.
Yeah, and he wasn't happily committing his crime either. Just
Right.
giddy with joy at committing
Right.
this crime. Definitely not. He
Right.
didn't look forward to it all day, every day, the moment he'd be able to get on the computer with the child and show
Mhm.
her himself naked.
Yeah, he wasn't thanking God that it was 4 o'clock on the day that he was going to be traveling there because our parents
Mm-hmm.
were leaving. Yeah, definitely wasn't.
Yeah.
So he's saying that the government is allowing MSNBC to do a show like this and not have regulations and rules set up. Of course they do.
Mm-hmm.
Of course they do. If it was entrapment, if they were luring people in and saying, this is an 18-year-old, for example, and then they were
Mm-hmm.
pulling the old switcheroo once they walk into the house and say, gotcha, just for to get them on TV and then haul them away and make it appear that they're being arrested. But they don't show the fact that they're talking to a child and they didn't show that they were setting the whole thing up and getting them over there. That's not what happened. They couldn't do that.
Right.
So clearly, and just like Chris Hansen said, they gave him the opportunity. And perverted justice is going to know that they're not going to make the first move.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be the ones that are making suggestions to meet and also to talk about sex and to show photos and get on a camera, all of those things. They know that they have to have the person make the first move.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what they did. And we can see that with Lorne as a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
Kayla didn't say anything. She didn't have to.
Right. They just put a kid there, and he went right after her.
He went right after her. I mean, the fact where, well, he talks about getting 11 or 12 photos of different people. Now, we haven't seen that. We've seen a few.
Mm-hmm.
And they were clearly different people. You can see very, very clearly different people. Not even close.
Mm-hmm.
And for him to say, well, yeah, I knew that, but, I was so lost at the time that, I couldn't see straight or something like that. It's ridiculous.
It is. He knew that, but he didn't care because he didn't care which 13-year-old girl.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a 13-year-old girl.
Right. Yeah.
It makes him look worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That he was so desperate for this kid that he would just dismiss things like that.
Right. Yeah. And he got on the phone with her and she sounded like a baby.
Mm-hmm.
That was enough. That was definitely enough. And she was acting like a baby too. As far as like, her parents and, acting like, just like a kid, I guess.
Yeah, like a dumb kid.
Yeah, like a dumb kid. Doesn't know anything, is
Mm-hmm.
really innocent and all of that. Mom has to tell her to go to bed.
Yeah, doesn't know where the road
Yeah.
leads to.
Right, doesn't know she has a garage.
Yeah, it's just a stupid kid.
Yeah,
None of
doesn't.
that deterred him.
No, that was even better.
Well, it just made him be more careful. Like, well, I got to do the
Mm-hmm.
thinking for the both of us.
Yes. Yeah, you just listen to me, okay? Do what
Mm-hmm.
I tell you. Don't ask questions. Just do it. So when he's talking here about his defender shrugging it off without trying to look for the video cameras, well, he didn't have to. There didn't need to be any defense. He was agreeing to a plea agreement.
Mm-hmm.
That charge was taken off the table. Why would they have to go and look at video cameras?
Right. And it doesn't change the fact that Lorne said that in his chat log, that he
No,
was
it
going to
doesn't.
take those
Right.
pictures.
Right. And that could have been a part of the conversation that he had with them too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would imagine it would be like, well, what do I do? What are my chances? Like, what do you
Mm-hmm.
suggest and all of that? Because they're counsel and they have to do everything that they can. That's what their duty is.
Right.
They're not just going to be like, I'm not doing that. No,
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like it.
I don't feel like it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. So he decided to take the plea agreement, which left him no leeway as far as appealing the conviction. Whereas if he went to trial and his defense team failed him, he would have the opportunity to appeal his conviction.
Mm-hmm.
So, his thinking here is ridiculous, and of course it is, because he's just trying to spin everything in a way to make you feel sorry for him and that he had no choice, that the justice system is so flawed that he got caught in their web.
Mm-hmm.
And he got dragged down and he couldn't fight it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. He absolutely could have. He had the opportunity to take it to trial.
Yeah. But it's possible too that his lawyer pointed it out. Like here's the discovery package.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that the portion about him talking about the camera was included in there.
Mm-hmm.
And they would have said, well, here you go.
Yeah, there
What
you
are you going
go.
to do?
Yeah, drop it, Lauren. Take the fucking plea.
Right. Because at that point, if the pawn shop did have a video camera, it did show him going in there. Okay. But you still talked about taking the pictures and then you had the camera with you.
Right, and you had the camera. Exactly.
Right. And so it doesn't make any difference either what his defense would be. They could present all of that to a jury, but the
Mm-hmm.
jury is the one that's going to decide what is the fact, what
Mm-hmm.
is true. And they're going to put all of these things together and they're going to say, I don't believe him.
Right. Yeah, I think he must have known that.
He had to have. He had to have, because I don't think that he received subpar counsel. I don't think he did. I think that they did their job. They
Mm-hmm.
had Lorne Armstrong to defend, and how do you defend that? You
Yeah,
know,
that chat log to defend. How do you
yeah.
defend
How
that?
do you
Right.
defend that? What are you going to do? What are
Mm-hmm.
you going to do? This looks really bad.
Mm-hmm.
This looks really, really bad. And
Yeah.
the government did not have to give him a plea agreement. They
Mm-hmm.
never had to offer anything. They could have said, "We're taking you to trial. Good luck to you.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to bury you with this." And they would have.
Yeah, it's too bad.
It is too bad. It is too bad. Then there would be a whole nother set of complaints about, the jury that was selected and, how that all played out, and it's not fair.
Oh yeah, it's all corrupt,
Mm-hmm.
and this one was bribed, this one was paid off,
Yep.
and all these
Yeah.
crazy conspiracy things. That's funny. He calls Alex Jones the one theory thug. Lauren's got conspiracy theories for days.
Oh, he does. Yeah. Yeah, he certainly does. All right. So it says, my time has gotten straightened out to a point. It's no longer October 14th, 2015. It's now October 17th, 2012, which is still not right because that means that they're making me serve 100% of the 60-month sentence when I'm only supposed to be serving 85% of the 60-month sentence. What's happened is that they don't want to give me credit for the time I was in jail. They're saying that I was in Kentucky state custody at the time, and my federal time didn't start until my federal sentencing. Yet they say that my state and federal sentences are to run concurrent. To me, concurrent means together from the start, not together but starting 9 months later. Then my federal investigator that works for my federal lawyer had the nerve to tell me that they got that fixed for me and they didn't even have to do that. And that was the final bottom line date that they could get my sentence fixed to. Well, I've done some talking to a couple of other inmates that have gone through the same thing, and they said they've gotten their jail credit for their federal sentence even though they were in state custody at the time. They just had to fight to get it. So I have a legal aid working on that for me. I also have the same legal aid working on my response to NBC's answer to my complaint. We put in for a 30-day extension to respond to it also, so that I had time to give a good response to their answer, even though their answer was pretty weak. They were stuck on libel and slander, even though the court already dismissed any claim of libel and slander. And they never denied anything that I wrote in my claims, so that just goes to show that they know they've done wrong.
What?
Oh,
He
you didn't understand all that?
no, he's talking about this court stuff with NBC like he's mentioned it ever before. The
Right.
reader doesn't know anything about any of that. Answer to what? Libel and slander what? Who? Who said?
Yeah.
Who said what?
I know. I know. No, you're right. He hasn't mentioned any of that.
Again, it's just stream of consciousness vomit coming out of his head.
Yeah.
Whatever's in his head. It doesn't need to make sense to the reader. It makes sense to Lorne.
So I'm not sure about them completing their sentence. So it says that he's only supposed to be serving 85% of the 60-month sentence. I'm curious, does that mean that they're supposed to get out after 85% no matter what? Or does it mean that when they've hit 85%, they're eligible for parole?
I have no idea. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe if it's like a good time, maybe if they go an amount of time without any like disciplinary stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
really have no idea. Because I would
Yeah.
think if you're sentenced to 60 months, you serve 60 months. But
Right.
what do I know? I also don't know about state and federal time and running concurrent. Like I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how it should be done
Okay,
or
lawyer
what they
friends,
do.
step
Yeah,
forward,
somebody help
please.
us.
Yes, please, please, please. Um, I was just thinking that, with the 85%, that could be when he would be eligible for parole. Because you remember when we were listening to the parole hearings,
Hmm.
it was stating that after a certain amount of time, then they were eligible. So they've
Oh,
hit,
maybe.
a certain amount. So I don't know if this is different somehow. It could be.
Mm.
But I mean, I think it's great that they made him serve 100%. He deserved that.
Yeah, he never went up for parole and got denied. He just had to serve the whole
The whole
sentence, right?
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't
Okay.
remember it saying that he had any eligibility for parole during that time.
I don't remember that either. Yeah. It'd be helpful if he would like explain things for for other people to understand in this book that he's writing for other people.
For other people, right. This is supposed to be for the American citizen.
Hmm.
Just, somebody who's going to not have any idea of how this stuff works, because we don't know either.
Yeah.
We would watch a lot of court things. And this one I'm not quite sure about.
Yeah, I don't know either. I wish he had put more about um M NBC, his complaint against NBC
Mm-hmm.
in here. I mean, we have that stuff,
Yeah.
so we'll eventually get to it.
Yes.
But I'd like to hear more of Lauren's thoughts about it in his journal expose book.
This poor legal aid.
I know.
That has to work with them. Maybe it's just like a law student. It's like, fuck. I had to put in so many hours and I got stuck with this.
Yeah, well, I mean, it could be worse, right? It's pretty fun. Like,
I think it
he's
would be
gonna,
pretty interesting too
yeah, argue back and forth with
with NBC.
NBC. So Lauren was accusing them of slander and libel, I assume.
Yeah, I'm assuming that was one of his arguments and the court dismissed it already. I was like, no.
Yeah, they read parts of the chat. Well, and I think Lauren's point was they shouldn't have aired the footage from the show because he hadn't been convicted yet.
I see. Okay.
So it was
Okay.
slanderous to say that he was a sex offender, that he was like
A
a
predator.
predator.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
calling him a predator.
Hmm.
He doesn't like that.
No, they were the predators.
Yeah,
That's
they
the
were.
worst part about it.
Yeah, they were going after him. So, oh, the other part that I like too is that, he's getting advice from other inmates.
Hmm.
Everyone has a jailhouse lawyer.
Hmm.
They've all been through it quite a few times, I'm sure. You know,
Yeah.
everyone's a lawyer in there. Everyone knows that they got screwed over, Everyone knows that if they had the money to pay for a real attorney, then they wouldn't be in the position that they are in,
Hmm.
which I always find interesting because I think that public defenders get a lot of shit.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that that's the reason why, is because an offender doesn't get what they want. They're
Hmm.
not walking free at the end of their case. So
Hmm.
therefore, their attorney failed.
Yeah, or you're just guilty.
Well, but see, that's the thing. That's what your lawyer's supposed to get you out of. They're supposed to
That's
get you
true.
out of trouble.
Hmm.
That's their job. And I think that there's plenty of people, in particular people sitting in jail, who are going to be thinking that it was their attorney's job to get them out of that, and they
Hmm.
didn't.
Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of people, of course, have to go the public defender route because who's going to be able to pay for a defense? Not many,
Hmm.
you know. So I this just made me think of Sarah Boone.
Hmm. I was thinking of her too. Yeah.
She's gone through 8 of them so far. And the judge just determined that she is now defending herself. She is not getting a ninth attorney. So let's look forward to her day in court. That is going to be an interesting one.
Well, she does think she's the smartest person in the room at all times, so should be a breeze for her.
She does. She wrote a 58-page letter to the court,
Yeah,
and that's what
that's
broke
crazy.
them.
I bet.
That's what broke them. But
I'd love
yeah,
to read
that's
that.
going to
Is
be.
that publicly available?
I
Do we know?
believe so.
Oh man.
I mean, I've seen in thumbnails, I've seen like the writing. So I've seen
Hmm.
the pages. So I'm assuming that it is. Somehow we should get our hands on it.
Yeah, we'll have to take a look at that.
I mean, talk about rambling,
I know. I
right?
can
I
only
can only
imagine.
imagine the
Hmm.
rambling. Yeah. Yeah. So that's going to be an interesting one. Let's see. Okay, so now he's going to be talking about his time in Fort Dix. So, would you like to talk about Fort Dix?
Yes, but is Fort Dix the prison? It's the
Mm-hmm.
prison. Okay. Just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure. As far as how I'm doing here at Fort Dix, New Jersey, I'd say I'm starting to do better. I've gotten a lot of customers from my laundry business so that I can make some halfway decent money. And I'm also ironing uniforms to make extra money, plus typing for people to make extra money. That is all to go with the approximate $20 per month, 12 cents per hour, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week that I make from the prison. So I can let my mother know finally that I don't need her to send me any money anymore. I hope that makes her feel as good as it makes me feel. If I win my lawsuit against NBC, I'll be taking care of her financially for the rest of her life, and that will make me feel happier than anything.
Oh, what a good boy.
So we skipped. He started the journal in jail.
Yes.
We got nothing about like the move to prison. It's like Aaron all of a sudden wakes up one day and he's
Yeah.
in the Middle East. He finds himself in the Middle East one day.
Yes.
That's what happened to Lorne. He just found himself in New Jersey.
Right. And just like with Aaron, he all of a sudden had lost it in the field, right? And
Hmm.
then he was
Hmm.
going home. He had spent
Yeah.
a bunch of time in between there in a hospital recovering,
Hmm.
but we don't know any of that. We're just going to yada yada through that and get to where he goes home to his loving mother.
Yeah, and it says I'm starting to do better. Were you doing poorly before? We got no.
Right. That is an excellent point. And somebody brought it up too about how there was no mention of him crying and taking medicine,
Hmm.
right? About
Hmm.
him struggling there. There's no mention, at least so far. I don't know if he brings it up in here, of him getting into trouble for anything. And I think that he did. Didn't he get in trouble for his laundry business?
Oh, did he?
I don't know.
Was the guard that he wrote the poem to in prison or jail?
That I don't know.
Because I know in some of the letters that he wrote to his mom, um, he was in like segregation or
Mm-hmm.
something. Like he
Right.
was in, yeah, in some kind of punishment. It doesn't, I don't think, the letters that I've heard at least don't explain why he was in trouble or where,
Mm-hmm.
be it the jail or the prison.
Mm-hmm.
He just does big time jumps. Like now he's
He
talking
does.
about if he wins this against NBC. Wins what?
His lawsuit. But he doesn't say
Where?
how much.
Or for, yeah, he just, it's just the reader just is supposed to know that he's working on a lawsuit against NBC.
Maybe this is just an outline for his book. What do you think?
Maybe, yeah, maybe it's just a rough draft and
Maybe,
he's
yeah.
going to go back in and add the little details in, those
Mm-hmm.
little details.
Right, that could be chapters long.
Hmm.
Just not 2 or 3 page chapters either. The ones that he likes, where you say, "Oh."
Oh, this is only 2 pages. That's so funny. It's so funny how they're easy to read.
I know. I can read more that way. But yeah, he doesn't explain anything. I know. I know. That's the thing about writing is that you've got to write in a way that anybody can read it.
Right.
That somebody who doesn't know anything about this is going to understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
And
I mean, we understand
well, sure, because we know all the
being
backstory. We know
right.
we're able to fill in all of the spaces,
Hmm.
but not based on what he's saying. We're having several minutes of conversation in between filling in all of this stuff that he's not saying right here. It's stuff that we have found out after. So if
Yeah, and
this is
again, this is his book to show the world what is happening with the
right.
justice system.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, really, all he's saying is that, he's got his little laundry business. He's saying that, the justice system screwed him over for having him go to prison to begin with. And then it screwed him over for having him go to prison for as long as he did.
Hmm.
And he's always going to bitch about something. Always. Even when he went to prison the second time, he was mad that he got 6 months, but when they could have given him 3.
Oh, he was so mad.
Yeah.
And he was going to expose it. He was going to have his celebrity followers expose it. Probation was real worried about that.
Yeah, they were
I
real
know.
worried.
Yeah, he couldn't just, I mean, he literally said I didn't do anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You violated your probation by drinking.
Yeah.
That's what you did. And he admitted it.
He did admit it at his polygraph, but then he
Hmm.
lied about it when the polygraph was actually happening, which is the best.
Well, I weren't lying because I already told him.
Right, I already told him and then I lied. Then I still answered incorrectly when he asked the question. Yeah, genius.
I know. He deserves to be locked up just for his stupidity.
Right. Oh, good. Okay, so he said that he called his mom. So let's see what that says. Well, I called my mom 2 days ago, so I'm just now getting to write the update. She told me that the lady called to come inspect the house I'll be living at. My mother asked her when I was supposed to be getting out, and the lady told my mother that I was getting out in May. That came as a shock when my mother told me that. I figured I'd know before anyone else when I was getting out. So, obviously, the court ordered BOP to release me. I'm getting out finally on May 4th. They'll be putting a monitor bracelet on my ankle, from what I'm understanding, because I'm actually in their custody, from what I'm figuring, until May 6th. But I guess they also need to make sure that I go to the state I say I'm going to and don't take off somewhere else. I'm guessing they'll be taking the bracelet off of me on the 6th, since that's when she told my mother I'm to report into her. I'm a little nervous about going home and how things will be so different for me and things I need to do. I'll be doing another lawsuit on BOP for keeping me incarcerated 80 days past my release date. I was looking it all up in the Trulers, I'm not sure what that is, TRULIARS website today. And it's right in the constitutional amendments under Amendment 14, due process. Well, that makes another lawsuit I'll be doing. People may end up thinking I'm sue happy, but I'm not. I'm just pissed off about the whole rack of bullshit, and I want those that like to do a person wrong to pay. And like it says in the U.S. Constitution, to keep blood from being spilled, the debt will be paid in money. And boy, are they going to pay when I'm finished. I'm going after everyone that tried so hard to ruin my life. Holy.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
he is determined to become a billionaire, a multi-millionaire from this shit. What is this time jump? All of a sudden he's about to get out.
Yeah, he's getting out on May 4th. I don't know when he's writing this,
Yeah, no
you
idea.
know? Yeah, no idea. So yeah, he's getting out on May 4th, and he's pissed off about it because he was supposed to be out 80 days before that.
Where the 80 day he didn't write in this for, I mean, it seems like he would go months and months without writing his book. And then he just
Yeah.
not pick up where he left off, but just pick up today.
Right,
Like, oh, I
exactly.
had oatmeal this morning and like,
I know. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, unless there's always a possibility that we don't have the whole thing, right?
yeah, that's true.
That is possible. You know, but I can also see it being like this, though, too, that I think he spent a lot of time doing his lawsuits,
Hmm.
and I think he spent a lot of time writing to his mother.
Yeah.
So while he is talking about how this is like a massive project, you know, that he wants to talk about the justice system and how it's wronged him so greatly, I also think that that's kind of on the back burner, you know,
Hmm.
so he just hasn't been able to really. Plus, he's running a laundry business.
That's true. Yeah.
You know, he's making $20. What is it, $20 a day?
$20 a month.
Oh, a month, yes.
Well, $20 a month working for the jail, and then he's making some money on the side for doing this little laundry business.
Yes, yeah. So I'd love to know if anyone remembers him saying he got into trouble for that somehow.
How would he be doing that unless it was for like commissary? You can't have money in prison.
Right.
You can't have like cash money to
Mm-hmm.
it'd be cool if he would explain it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, how much is he charging? Was he charging? Well, Aaron wasn't there, unfortunately. I was going to say, was Aaron getting his laundry for free?
He probably would have. But no, these are
Probably.
all new people. We don't
Yeah.
know about anybody here.
No, I want to hear the shenanigans.
I know. Well, that part's done.
Right. He's out of that hellhole.
Yeah, now we're just going to hear about his thoughts on mostly on NBC and the justice
Mm-hmm.
system. Now it's
Mm-hmm.
about, so he's almost done with his sentence. So there's no more like fighting to get less time or anything like that. Now it's about payback.
Yes, it's revenge.
Hmm.
Like it says in the U.S. Constitution, to keep blood from being spilled, the debt will be paid in money.
Yeah, give him the money or Lorne's going to cut your throat.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to be Rambo. Does
He
he like?
lost it in the prison.
He lost it in the prison. Yeah, right. Right. Yeah. He lost it in the jail and then he lost it in the prison. Oh, goodness.
And
Well,
boy, are they gonna pay.
yeah. I know when he's
Yeah.
done, he's going after everyone who tried so hard to ruin his life. That means Ralph and Lori, you better get ready. You had better get ready.
The delusion.
I know. I know. And I believe that he does have those types of daydreams as well.
Fantasies, yeah.
Yeah, talking about having what millions and millions of dollars that he's going to take care of his mom. His mom's going to
Hmm.
finally love him.
Hmm.
And he's going to take care of her for the rest of her life. And he's, fuck his siblings, though. You never should have messed with me.
Yeah. And I'm sure he fantasized about them crying and begging him. And I wish I never did that to Lord.
I
They're like, I
know.
was shivering in the cold like a
Yeah.
little Victorian homeless child with
Yes.
one shoe on.
Yes, I was thinking that too. They're outside in the cold and Lorne is in his massive mansion and he
Hmm.
opens the door, this huge door, right? And he's got
Hmm.
a fireplace in the background that's really big too and everything. It's just warm and it smells like a beautiful meal is being prepared and they're
Hmm.
outside shivering.
Hmm.
They don't even have coats on. Like you said, they have one shoe between all
Please,
of
sir,
them. Yes,
could I have a shilling? Please, sir, a penny for the poor.
I
And
know.
Lon's like, I told you a long time ago.
Exactly. And then he tells them, like it says in the US Constitution, to keep blood from being spilled, the debt will be paid in money. Remember that. You should have thought about this before. And he slams the door.
And you fucked up, Lori.
Yeah.
I know how to say the word no now.
You know, and you hear his mom from the kitchen, Lon,
Lon,
who's
shut the
out
door.
the
Your
door?
sister's a piece of shit. Just like my ex-husband.
You were right.
Thank
You
you
know.
for being born, Lon. I'm so glad I have you to take care of me.
And Lon, I love you. I know, mother dear. Yeah.
I know, he finally hears those words
He
from his mom.
finally does. Yeah. Yeah.
It only cost him $80 million.
That's it. I know. But it was worth it, though. He did say he was going to take care of her, so now he has to.
Hmm.
But yeah, he's going to go after everybody, and that list is long. That list is very, Tony's on there.
Hmm.
Yep. Tony's on
Tony,
there.
Ralph and Lori,
Mm-hmm. Yep. Everyone. All the kids
Christine
on the sixth
Wilson.
grade basketball team.
Hmm. Fuck them. Fuck
Fuck
them
them.
people.
Yep. Yep.
Paula.
Paula for sure. Could you imagine if Paula came around because she saw there's going to be a newspaper article when he
Oh,
wins his
his win,
lawsuit?
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And she's going to see that and then she's going to knock on his door.
Hmm. And he's gonna say, "Go run back to James now."
I know, exactly. I know. Yeah. He wears a smoker's jacket like
Uh-huh.
Hugh
Hmm.
Hefner.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Like
instead of,
silk pajamas and
yep, silk pajamas, slippers.
hmm
Yep. Very classy.
got a
He
cigarette in
got,
each hand.
yes, but it's still in like the Cruella de Vil cigarette
Yes.
holder.
Yes, I was just gonna say that. It's like super long cigarette holder.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Once he gets all that money, he's really classy.
Oh, then he can also pay for studio time.
He's going to have his own studio.
He's gonna make it in country music.
Yes.
And he's gonna sing about being a country boy in his silk
In
pajamas
his silk
and
pajamas. Yeah, exactly. And he's still going to pee outside.
yes. He's gonna have a trailer just for fun.
Right in the back. Yeah, his
Just
mansion
for
is gonna be
nostalgia.
it's gonna be built on Uncle Rich's land.
Yes. He's gonna buy all the expensive materials, but he's gonna build it with his bare hands.
Yes, yeah, he
$60
sure is.
million house. He could do that.
Roy's gonna do the plumbing.
Yeah. He's the hardest worker.
He is.
So,
I
yeah.
wonder if he would take care of Roy.
Probably not. His idea of taking care of Roy would be buying a metal shipping container and having him sleep in that in the yard.
Yeah, that's true.
And
And
Roy still has to
also,
give him $400 a month for it.
right, for the electricity.
Hmm.
Yeah, because that's going to have an extension cord going out to the back. Yeah. Hmm.
I know. Even if he did have a mansion, he would turn it into a disgusting hoarder den. He'd
Hmm.
like start ripping big parts of it off and trying to rebuild them with his bare hands. And
Yeah.
I built a closet with a chandelier. Like, even unlimited money, he'd still just be a fuck up.
Well, he would. Yeah. I mean, we saw that when he received the COVID money. He has
Hmm.
absolutely nothing to show for it. I mean, I know
Yeah.
he paid for the land because Aunt Sharon made sure he did that.
Hmm.
But aside from that, I mean that is a significant amount of money that he got for doing
Hmm.
nothing. So, I mean, the fact that he could have really buckled down and made sure that he had a plan for it. You know, how much he's going to save. How is he going to save that? And what he's going to do with that for the future. And he has absolutely nothing.
Well, his plan was to buy a bunch of garbage that other people don't want
Right.
and then sell it at a huge profit, but he was forgetting that it's garbage that people don't want.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
exactly.
So that's what he has to show for it is a trailer and yard full of shit. Just
Hmm.
crap.
I know. It's really funny that he hasn't, it seems, wrapped his mind around the fact that yard sailing is not a money making endeavor.
Hmm.
You know, especially because he spends so much to get things and then they just end up staying there.
Yeah, I think he just likes hoarding. He just likes buying or collecting trash. And he justifies it by saying, I can sell it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think if you've watched the hoarder shows before,
Hmm.
they will say things like that, like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna save that for I have a use for that. You know, it's gonna be for when I do this, which is something ridiculous that you know will never happen.
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
know,
he's
it's
definitely a hoarder.
yeah, yeah. So I think he's probably in that same way when it
Hmm.
comes to all of his other stuff. So now it says, anyway, I'll be ending this book soon, obviously. May 6th will be my last entry. I don't know if I write another book or not. It's a possibility. I'm not telling anyone here that I'm leaving. They don't need to know. I told 3 people, and that's all. Well, I guess you told people. Okay.
I know.
Screw the rest of them. I can't stand most of the freaks here anyway. Some are all right, but most are a bunch of ignorant followers that can't decide for themselves. They need some other person to tell them how to act, what to do, and who to talk to. Then they think themselves tough because they're protected. Having protection in here doesn't help them at all on the street, so they really should learn to keep their mouths shut more often. Anyway, I put myself on a diet last week and started walking a lot again. See if I can lose these 5 pounds I've gained since I've been typing a lot. It feels good to go walking a lot again. It will feel a lot better to be home though. I need to sit in front of a campfire and do some burning of the conversation I had, which he's talking about the chat log, I think.
Yeah.
So maybe it'll in some way help my healing process and help me to find myself again after going through this nightmare.
You know what really makes me laugh? He's talking about the ignorant followers that can't decide for themselves. They have to be told who to talk to. It sounds to me like no one would talk to Lorne.
Uh-huh.
And when they did, they would just fuck with him. Um, and they thought they were tough because they were protected.
Yeah. That's
But they won't
exactly
be
it.
protected on the street. So they
Mm-hmm.
better learn to shut the fuck up. Because if Lawrence sees those guys on the street,
Uh-huh.
he's gonna punch him in the ear.
That's right. And in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that they definitely were talking shit to him. Definitely. Because that's the thing that he will call people is he'll call them ignorant
Hmm.
when they're talking shit to him, or they're
Right.
not, if they're not being nice, or if they're, doing something to him that's messed up. It's because
Hmm.
they're ignorant. So I think that's absolutely true. I think that they weren't being nice to him. I don't think he really had any friends there because he hasn't mentioned anybody.
Nope.
He didn't have an Aaron to gawk at. He didn't have, Vern and all the other guys to occupy his time. I think that they were probably just talking shit.
Yeah, they just ostracized him,
Mm-hmm.
which would make sense because he said that he was in protective custody in jail, but not in prison.
Mm-hmm.
So in jail, he was with people like him who committed crimes like him, or like special, disabled people, like, so he was kind of more in his element there.
Mm-hmm.
But then if he was in general population in prison, yeah, they're not, no one's gonna be buddy buddy with the sex offender.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't really figure out what his situation was like in prison because Fort Dix is not a max security or
Hmm.
anything like that. Um, but it seems to me, though, that you would still be classified.
Well, especially in prison, you'd think.
Right. So I don't understand his general population statements um, because he would have to be.
I would think so. I mean, because jail is a more temporary thing.
Yes.
Prison is longer term.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I would think it would be most important to be, because that's your home. You live there for years at a time.
Mm-hmm.
People who aren't sex offenders, I would imagine, don't want sex offenders in their home. Like you got to put people with like people. But it does sound like he was in protective custody in the jail, because he mentioned other people in there who had crimes like
The
his.
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was the racist guy
Yeah.
who was in there. And I mean, he might have PC'd himself so he didn't get his ass kicked by, um, non-white people in the jail.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. I would just think that if you're going to be in protective custody anywhere, it'd be in the place you have to live for 5 years.
Yeah. I just don't know what he means by that. But it could also be that even in his section where he was, that, even if there were people that were like him, they still didn't like him. They still weren't buddy buddy with him. They didn't put him on the throne that he tried to put himself on in jail. He
Mm-hmm.
tried to make him be, this superior person. He was kind of like a mentor, or he wanted to be. He went back to his cell with his roommate, which was funny. Somebody had made a comment as well about the cellmate being called a roommate, as if this is
Mm-hmm.
like they're in school or something.
College, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They had to lock themselves away an hour before lockdown just to get away from everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, so it sounds like here he didn't have that same experience. And of
No.
course, we do know when he went back to the second time, he went back to Fort Dix again.
Mm-hmm.
And what was interesting about his story with Rue, the guy who was extorting him, I don't know what he was in for, but he absolutely targeted Lorne. Um, because from the story, from what I remember, he was in the TV room alone with him, and he had asked him what his charge was, what he was there
Hmm.
for. And that is a really common thing. They're going to want to know, what are you here
Hmm.
for? And when Lorne didn't want to disclose that, because of course he didn't, he knows, he didn't want to say, so he said probation violation. And he, of course, was like, well, what is that for, though? What are you
Right.
on probation for? And Lorne said he didn't want to talk about it. So therefore, the guy knew. And he basically said, well, okay, I know what that means then. So here's what the deal's going to be. And so he ended up taking Lorne's commissary under threat, of course.
So, I mean, that kind of suggests that he wasn't in protective custody then.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm really curious about the Fort Dix facility and um, how people are separated there. You know, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, it's too bad we can't just get the truth out of Lorne.
I
Because
know.
I'd like to
Just
know.
tell us how it really was. I know.
Yeah,
I mean, if he was in PC, it could have been that Rue was there for another reason.
that's true.
We
Hmm.
also don't know what his charge was either.
Right, right.
But yeah, he could have been there for another reason. I know that Lorne
Hmm.
had also said during that time that he was in with ICE detainees,
Okay. Hmm.
which I think is funny too because they didn't speak English, but Lorne made it sound like they were buddy buddy with him. And it's like, if you speak another language, of course you're going to talk shit about him, right?
Absolutely. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's trying to, yuck it up with people, and they're just like, look at this fucking guy. Stupid idiot. That would be really funny to know about that too.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I'm curious how it really was there. But like it says here, I can't stand most of the freaks here anyway, which means they couldn't stand him and they weren't nice to him.
It's funny how it can't just be that they didn't like him, it's that they're all followers.
Yeah, oh definitely. Yeah.
It's just like when he stopped playing basketball, that's why the kids didn't want to be friends with him anymore. It's not just that they didn't like
Mm.
him or
Right.
he
Yeah.
was an unlikable person.
Right. Or the fact that they were kids and
Hmm.
they didn't hang out with him anymore.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how would you feel if the best player stopped playing on your team? Wouldn't you be pissed right off?
Yes.
Yeah. So they were pissed off at him too.
Hmm.
So Lawrence preparing to go home. He put himself on a diet. I wonder what that entailed. He doesn't talk about that.
No.
And then also started walking a lot again. He's speed walking around the yard. Wouldn't that be funny to see?
He's got to get in good shape for when he
Yes.
goes home.
Yes. So he's saying that he's been typing a lot. So he's been working on his typing business, perhaps. So he
Hmm.
gained 5 pounds.
Yeah.
he well, I wonder if he's doing all that stretching.
Yeah. You think he's keeping up his flexibility
I
in
know.
prison. Now he can put both legs straight up by his head.
Yeah, exactly. But Aaron's not there, so what's the point anyway?
Yeah. I
So
know.
he just dropped that.
Probably.
Yeah. So here we have something from May 16th, 2012. So what does that say?
On May 16th, 2012, this is the letter I received from the Kentucky Department of Public Advocacy. May have to write a short summary of the letter. After reading this letter, I knew already that I would have to do my own case in Court of Appeals on my own. I was hoping it would take a little longer than it did for them to answer it, but oh well. If I lose at the appellate level, though, I'll take it to the next level. Hopefully, by then, I will have won my lawsuit and have the money to pay for a decent lawyer to get this shit gone from my life. It's sad that the justice system is run by how much money a person has versus honesty and the Constitution. It's like after you show them what it says in plain English, in the Constitution, they say, oh, it does say that in the Constitution, and you're right, but you don't have enough money to pay me to admit that you're right, so I'm going to deny you your freedom for years upon years of your life. That should teach you to be right and to help us make more money from the taxpayers. Worthless and corrupt system. What's the letter?
I know. I don't know.
This is the letter I received from the Kentucky Department of Public Advocacy. I may have to write a short summary of the letter. Where the fuck is it?
I think what they were saying is that they're not going to help him appeal.
Yeah.
So,
Why though? Because he doesn't have enough money? Probably.
yeah, he has to get his own lawyer to do
Hmm.
that. And he's not going to. I remember somebody saying that you get a public defender for an appeal when it's like the death penalty because
Oh,
it's
okay.
pretty much like an automatic, you know. But for other things, for something like this, perhaps
What is
he
he
doesn't have
trying
public.
to appeal? His
Everything,
conviction?
the Constitution.
The plea deal that he took?
Yeah, well, he's trying to appeal. He could have mentioned that in there. I don't know what the letter says because of course it doesn't
Yeah.
say anything about that. But he was appealing his sentence, which he's already going through.
He's almost done, I thought.
Yeah, he's almost done. But maybe he wants to talk about the probation and things that
And
come
sex
after.
offender registry. Okay.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, we just don't know what it says at
Hmm.
this point anyway. But yeah, they're basically. I think they said no, we're not doing that,
Hmm.
and so he has to do it himself.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay. He can do that.
he can do that, right? Exactly. Like you can do that, and it is true that if you hire your attorney, you're gonna have to pay them for that.
That is true. Yes.
So I mean, this isn't the justice system being corrupt. It means that you have certain rights and the rights that you have, say for example you were tried as a criminal defendant, so you had the right to have a public defender, which he did.
Hmm.
Case is done. So
But things can only be honorably done if you do them for free.
yes, so once again
So,
Lauren is complaining about money. Everything's about
right.
money. Yeah.
Hmm. About people wanting to get paid for their work.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay.
Lauren, you're right about the Constitution. It does say that, but you don't have enough money to pay me to admit that you're right. So I'm going to deny your freedom for years upon years of your life.
That's exactly what happened.
That's exactly what happened. Yes, I agree. I agree. So worthless and corrupt system, Lauren. You were on the money with that.
Yep.
I still haven't heard anything from my jail credit yet, but I expect it to be about another month anyway. Honestly, I think it would hurt me more if I were to be immediately released this week because of the mail I'm waiting for. The end of this week would be great, but I don't really expect it for another month anyway. As far as what I'm going to be doing to pass my time here, I've been typing legal work for the same guy only. I'm not spending as much of my time at the law library. For the last 1.5 months, I've been going to the gym every day because I'm trying to get my 6-pack abs back before I go home. Right now, I have a 4-pack, so I have to get to it more. I have more to get. I'm working hard enough at it, so there's a chance I'll be able to do it. Unless I leave this week to go home. Even if I don't get my jail credit that I should get, I only have another 120 days left. But I still want my jail credit. It's time I already served, and they need to pay for keeping me incarcerated longer than I'm supposed to be. I'm mad as hell about it, and I'm sure anyone in my shoes would be. Okay. So Lauren's working on that 6-pack abs.
Yeah,
The
he's got to
six
get
pack
that
abs.
back.
He's got to get that back as if he ever had it. Lauren,
I know.
you never had a 6-pack. You just never did.
He has admitted that too. He said in a conversation with one of the catfish, I've never had six abs. But they're there, you just can't see them.
Yeah, they're there. Everyone has it.
What a liar.
Yeah, I know. But he's been going for the gym every day for a month and a half. Good for you. Let's see. I figured it was about time for an update, so here I am. Okay, we don't know how much time has passed. Um, Today is supposed to be 97 degrees with a heat index of 105, so it's going to be a hot one. As of right now, if I have to stay until my BOP out date, then I only have 102 days left. My motion has been on the judge's desk for 5.5 weeks now, and almost every motion I've ever put it into the court has taken 2 months, so I'm figuring I have another 2 weeks left. That's just my guess, though. It could be less or it could be more, or I may have to wait the whole 102 days before I can get out of this piss hole. Either way, I don't have much longer here. My BP 11 that I sent in a long time ago still hasn't come back yet. It's the last part of the administrative remedy that I would have had to do before sending it into the court about my jail credit. They were originally supposed to have it back to me on June 16th, but then wanted an extension until July 7th, and now here it is, July 26th, and I still haven't gotten a reply back from them about my 259 days of jail credit. Thank God I didn't wait to send my motion for jail credit into the court. The BOP does this extension bit on purpose to keep delaying a person getting out of their custody. It's just another corrupt act by the government to make more money off of a person being incarcerated. I would love for Lorne to explain how people are making money. I don't just want to hear they're making money and that it's corrupt. I want to know, how are they making money? Not that there's more cost to it, but how are they making money? Where is that money coming from? Tell me.
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm afraid I can't answer it.
And you know what? Lorne can't answer it either, so that's fair.
Yeah, because I think you're right. I think it costs more to house them than to let him go.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So the next part, it sounds like we might hear about somebody finally. So what does that one say?
Um, I figured it was about time for an update.
Oh
So
no,
here I
the
am.
next one.
Oh, sorry. Everything else is going all right, with the exception of this one guy in the room I've been in since I've been here. His name is Jake, and his bed is directly across from where I sleep and have my locker. Every morning, he rushes to eat breakfast and rushes to get back, take a shit, and then lay down before he goes to work. I never gave it a whole lot of thought before until I started noticing how he constantly picks at things on other guys' body. But after noticing that, I started paying more attention to the way he hurries to get back from breakfast, to take a shit, and be in place on his bed before I get back from eating to change out of my shorts and t shirt and into my uniform. The last few days, I paid attention to that. And this morning, when I got up, he was still asleep. Like he is every morning when I get up, because I get up at 3:30 or 4. But this morning, after I came back from taking my shower, I directly put on my uniform pants and a t-shirt so he couldn't check me out anymore. I'm happy now that I solved that problem. Some people are really pathetic and disgusting.
All right. Well, Jake
He
was,
constantly picks at things on other guys' body.
yeah. So, what does picking at things mean? Does he make fun of them?
Oh yeah, maybe he's always like, "Hey, you seen the nipples on all on Reggie over there? They're fucking huge." And Lauren's like, "You're not looking at my fucking nipples."
Yeah, exactly. Lauren knows that. Oh my
His
God.
whole routine is created around watching Lorne change out of his shorts
Yeah,
and t-shirt.
exactly. Jake wants to lay down in his bed and he wants to watch Lorne get
Yeah, he pretends
changed.
he's sleeping,
Yeah.
but he's really got one eye like cracked open, just peeking.
Yeah.
That's okay though. Lorne's happy he solved that problem now.
Yeah. Yeah. He was really worried
This
because
is this is this is what we're tuning in for. We want to know about
we
Jake.
do want to know about Jake. I know. I know.
We haven't heard any good stuff for a while. Oh.
Oh my God. Yeah. I can't even say like what I'm laughing at because I won't be able to.
Well, now we have to know.
Sorry.
Oh.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Let me find where we left off. Some people are really pathetic and disgusting. Okay. I just wrote an entry yesterday, but something happened last night, or this morning rather, that I just had to tell about. Ooh, we get something good.
Yes.
One of the scrawny white guys that thinks he's all Mr. Badass was evidently drinking hooch last night and was drunk. He came back to the floor he resides on to get into bed before count, but didn't realize they were already doing the 3 a.m. count. He was in front of the door to my room when he saw they were counting, and one of the guards came out of my room from just counting it. The second guard hadn't counted in my room yet. This scrawny white guy resides in the room next to me. The guard asked him where he thought he was going, and he told him to get in bed. He walked into my room where there was already 12 guys in it, went to get into what he thought was his bed, and saw there was someone in the bed. Then he looked around and realized that he was in the wrong room. He walked back out of my room, and both the guards were waiting there for him because the one that counted my room already told the other guard that there was already 12 guys in that room. When he walked out, they told him to put his hands behind his back. Get down! Handcuffed him, then searched him and found a cell phone in his pocket. That was all it took for them to take him to the hole. This scrawny white guy, we get it,
Right.
is one of the ones that decided to play tough guy when I was having some issues about 6 or 8 months back and run his mouth a bit.
Okay.
He hasn't dared to say a word to me since that time, and we just completely avoid each other if possible. Most of the time, when we pass each other in the hall, we'll just stare at each other. He knows I won't do anything while I'm here to hurt him, so he feels safe enough to try to act tough. I had all I could do to contain my laughter. Yeah, I bet.
Right.
I bet you would dare to laugh, you little bitch. When I watched this whole episode unfold in front of me at 3 in the morning. Boy, did I ever get a kick out of that. That will help teach the piece of shit for running his mouth and thinking he's more important than what he really is. The little twerp.
Oh my God.
Karma.
Yeah.
You talk shit to Lorne when he was having some of his issues. We don't know about what. We don't know what the issues are. We don't know what
No.
happened.
I
He's not
bet
going
you
to
he
talk
was
about it.
crying.
I bet you. That's what I was thinking. That
Yeah.
he was crying like a baby, and the scrawny white twerp was like, "You're a fucking bitch.
Yeah.
Stop
Yeah.
crying, you pedo."
Yes, exactly. Yeah, he was having a hard time. Lauren was, expressing his emotions. And this guy was making fun of him, which he should have been making fun of him. So thank you, scrawny white guy. Appreciate
Yeah.
that.
The way he told the story was so bad. He came to my
Yeah.
room. There was 12 guys in the room. His room is next to my room.
I know the one guard told the other guard, and then they saw the other guard, and then they
Yeah,
said,
in
it's
the
like,
room, in the 12 guys
right,
in the room with the guard outside the room next to the room.
right. As you were reading that, I was thinking, what is the point of this? But we got to the point where he
Yeah, the
said that
point
the
is,
guy
ha
was,
ha.
yep, the point was, you were laughing at me 6 or 8 months ago, and now look at you.
Yeah, I'm laughing at you.
Yeah.
I mean, in my head, I'm not actually laughing at you because I don't
Right.
dare to actually laugh at you. But
Right.
in my journal, I'm laughing at you.
Right. Yeah, in my journal. The one that no one's allowed to read. I'm going to laugh at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's saying
No.
it took all that he had to not laugh. It's like, what? What did you
Yeah.
have your hand over your mouth and your cheeks are all puffed out because you're just bursting?
Why can't you laugh?
Yeah, why can't you laugh?
Why can't you just laugh? Yeah.
Yeah,
Because you're scared.
that's right. That's right. So,
Wow, that was an important entry.
yes, thank you. Thank you for that. And I think that when he was saying that this person was giving him a hard time, I think that's the reason why he hasn't been writing about anybody in this. Aside from the
Mm.
fact that I don't think that he had as much time, he wasn't dedicating as much time that he did in jail.
Yeah, he had more to do in
Mhm.
prison.
Yeah, exactly. So now we have another time jump. And it said, I figured that right now is a good time to do another entry for the book. I have 11 days and a wake up left before I can go home. Ah, that's such a little kid thing.
It's such a little, yes, it really is. Um, I knew a boy who, when we were kids, who was in the juvie
Hmm.
jail. Um, and that's what they would call it. 3 months and a wake up.
Oh,
8 days and a
really?
wake up. Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
Interesting. Okay.
It is jail slang, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, I just remember hearing that from like little kids or something you would say to
Hmm.
little kids, just one more sleep, and it's going to be Christmas, like that type of a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if adults say that. Probably
Hmm.
adult people in jail. I don't know. The
Yeah,
only
it could be.
experience I have is this teenage boy
Hmm.
saying that. So,
It's been a long road, but it's almost done. If I can keep my cool and my sanity for the next 11 days, which seems like forever still, then I'll finally be able to get out of this festering piss hole. Now it's festering. And go home and try to get my life back together. Perverted Justice and NBC have published their website all over again on June 4th, 2012. So I did my lawsuit up, a whole new one, separate from the one that's going into appeal, which I'll discuss after I tell about this new one, for their illegalities that they were still doing by having the website up and running and slandering my name along with many other people that are actually innocent. I almost sent a letter to the federal prosecutor with a list of illegal acts that were performed by NBC and PJ by doing the show and saying that nobody paid any attention to because it was such a big name television company and people were overexcited about doing a television show. Plus, about what kind of name it would give to their town, plus, it was election time. Funny what money and recognition will do to a person. It's all the talk of the wallet.
it's all the talk of the wallet. Where'd you hear that?
I
Stupid
know.
saying.
Yeah, that was really stupid. But again, he's summing everything up by saying it's all about money and recognition, attention. How much money am I going to make off of this? I don't care how I do it. I just want the money.
Hmm.
So yeah, he has another lawsuit ready to go.
Yeah, and he'll tell us about that new lawsuit. He hasn't told us about the old one.
No,
He hasn't told us about any of it, but
right,
he plans to.
right. And it said, I thought it said I almost sent a letter, but it says I also sent a letter to the federal prosecutor with a
Yeah.
list of illegal acts. I thought it said almost, and I was like, well, why didn't you?
Yeah. Oh
But
no, he
yeah,
did.
yeah,
and they were scandalized. They were like, "Oh my God, Lauren, thank you for bringing attention to this." Nobody did anything because they were so excited about being on TV. Nobody even
Hmm.
thought about like the legality of it.
Yeah.
Nobody cares if a giant television corporation commits crimes on TV. No one would care about
No.
that.
No, there's
Like their
never been a.
competitors wouldn't.
Yeah, right.
No.
Well, ABC tried to do something.
They tried, yeah.
It was bad. Did you ever see their little show that they did?
I did only because I think it was streamed it,
Hmm.
like in the community, and that's when I realized that all the stuff that Lorne um regurgitates, he got it from there. That's his source.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, but yeah, he got all the damning info on perverted justice and NBC from their competitor.
Right. Right. Yep. He's going to be on their side because they would never do anything like that. ABC would absolutely have never done To Catch a Predator if they had the opportunity.
No, they're honest reporting. They don't
Hmm.
create the news like NBC does.
Yeah. So let's see. Well, I've made a decision to try to change that, at least put my best effort in, because I've seen too much of the disgusting way politicians are and the corrupt ways of the so called authorities these days. I'm going to take some college courses in law and become a paralegal and see what I can do about starting a pro se business to help people that have been unjustly duped by the public defender system. It's terrible how it's said that a person is innocent until proven guilty when it's actually the other way around. And what's even more sad is that a person gets condemned by other people when the government tags a name on them, or a charge that the accused hasn't had a chance to clear his name before being titled. Anyway, I'll be ending this book soon. He said that multiple times.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start another one when I get home. Oh, yeah, about my lawsuit appeal. The judge dismissed my lawsuit on the basis of another guy's lawsuit when NBC put in a motion of notice of supplemental authority. Now, my first lawsuit is an appeal, and I've started up a new one also. He's very busy.
He's going to take some college courses. He's going to help other people that are in the situation that he was in. What's pro se mean?
It means for free.
Oh, I thought pro bono meant for free.
Pro se business to help people. I think he's trying to say that, well, hang on a second.
I know, I think he's trying to say for free. What does pro se mean?
It means on one's own behalf. When you're without an attorney, you are proceeding pro se.
Okay, I see.
So maybe he's saying that he wants to help them
He helped them
do
represent
that. Yeah,
themselves.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Well, that's very admirable. I wonder if he'll want to get paid for it, though.
Well, it's a business.
Well, I know, but it's dishonorable to do it for money.
But it's not though
It's
because
the
he's gonna help people. So
it's the wallet
um,
of the talk of the wallet or
the
whatever.
talk of the wallet. Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Okay.
Unjustly duped by the public defender system. Okay. Cool.
Lauren was
Um,
put on this earth to help people.
he was. He was. And I bet you that him saying paralegal, he wants to become a paralegal is the only time ever he's ever said that. Could you imagine Lorne Armstrong being a paralegal?
Well, he is highly educated,
Yeah.
hardworking, competent.
He could go for a job interview, which would be funny if he handed over his resume. We've seen his job history,
Hmm.
right? Could you imagine that? So he's going to go for an interview at a firm, and they're going to say, well, what's your experience? He said, well, I was in prison. So,
I was in prison. I did help a fellow prisoner write a lawsuit against NBC that got dismissed and therefore led to mine as well being dismissed.
yeah. I think that's what he's talking about is Michael
I think so.
Patterson's. Yeah, which
I
he
think
did
so
help.
too. Mhm.
And it's funny that that was filed one day before Lawrence,
Mhm.
and they
Yeah.
used that one to deny Lawrence. That is really funny.
Yes.
All right, so now he has 3 days and a wake up. So take it away, Amanda
Well,
James.
well, 3 days and a wake up, and I'm out of this piss hole. Wow, it's really that's his favorite word.
Yeah,
That's
you
his
know how he
favorite
sticks
title.
to words?
He sure does.
Yeah.
Unless for some reason I get sent to the hole, which is something I'm doing my damnedest to prevent. I wanted to deck a guy this morning for rushing out of his room to beat me to the television this morning. Okay. We know it was this morning. The guy has some issues. I usually watch the Weather Channel in the morning after they finish the 5 a.m. head count because that's when there's nobody up yet. And I only watch it long enough that I can see what the weather is for that day locally and across the country. This guy that literally sits in front of the television almost all day long watching CNN came out of his room this morning practically running to get ahead of me to get to the television before me so we could turn it on CNN. There's more than one television in the building, but they have the labels on the doors for sports, one for entertainment, and one for news. And they have a Spanish television room and another couple of TVs in the front room. This guy acts as though he owns the news television room. It's quite sad to see. I was irritated that he did what he did this morning because he sits there all day, and that's the only time I get to see the weather because I'm busy all day. But I just cooled down after a few without saying anything and thought about things. I wish I would have never let that upset me because I only have a very few days left and that's something that wouldn't be worth going to the hole for and having to stay in this piss hole longer because of. So, instead of acting like I was mad at the guy the next time I saw him, I joked with him a little so he could see I wasn't upset. I almost think he might have a mental problem, but it's kind of hard to tell. Anyway, so far, I'm holding up well for my last few days here. Hope I can keep myself away from ignorance from the rest of the time I'm here. That's a
Oh
really
my
cool
goodness.
story.
Yeah, cool story. Did you ask this person if you could just watch the news for a minute?
Oh no, because he's a big giant puss.
Right. But he wanted to deck him.
But he cooled down. He's not going to let that upset him. He's only got a few days. Why does he care about the weather across the country, by the way?
I don't know.
Or the local weather? He's in prison.
He's in prison. Yeah, it doesn't matter, right?
Who gives a shit? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Um,
do they have the weather on CNN? I think they do.
I don't
Maybe
know.
Lauren was being a little bitch.
I don't know. Maybe he wanted to hear it on the local news. You know,
He
maybe
does
that's
love
what
the
he wanted.
weather. He does
Yeah.
love learning about the weather, talking about the weather.
Hmm.
Okay, well, the guy might have a mental problem.
So I joked around with him a little bit, so he knew that I wasn't upset. He didn't give a shit that you were upset, Lauren.
Obviously not.
Right.
Obviously not.
Because he ran out of there just to beat you to it, which is great.
Yeah.
I love that. It does say, though, that unless for some reason I get sent to the hole, I wonder how many times he went to the hole. And I wonder
Hmm.
why, because he doesn't talk about that stuff.
I know. You'd think he would. He doesn't talk about anything important.
Hmm.
He just tells these stupid little stories about running out of toilet paper or somebody taking the TV from him. He talks about the TV constantly. That's what we learned the most about his time in prison,
Yeah. Yeah.
the TV.
And how everything's related to him. Like the guy was running out to beat him to it. Nobody lets Lauren watch what he wants to, and he doesn't
Hmm.
want to watch anything anyway.
He's got
So
better things to do than watch TV anyway,
he does.
but he was just upset about that
Yeah.
anyway. And how everyone is just so gay and they want to look at his body and
Mm-hmm. And his nipples to compare them to Reggie's. That's what I was laughing about before that I couldn't get out. Yeah, Lauren was
He should.
afraid that the other guy would see that his were bigger than Reggie's. So he had to make sure that he did it before the guy was awake.
Yeah, he like puts an arm over his nipples
Yeah.
behind him.
Oh God.
Do you like my penis on my balls better? Should
Yeah.
I?
As he's
Should
changing into his pants, he's like flexing his ass.
I? He's like, want to see what I can do? He lifts his leg all the way up.
Yeah. I did a lot of stretches in jail.
So put some wear on my knees.
I'll do it anyway if you like it.
That'd be funny though. Like he just genuinely wants to show off how flexible he is. He thinks people will be impressed by that.
Yeah.
And he's just lifting his legs up with his boxers on, flopping his stuff around. Everybody in prison is gay.
Yeah. Yeah. So they must love it. They must love it. So I think we're about to get another good story. Another entry the same day because I got jolted earlier with a reminder of things I'm not going to miss and will be extremely happy to get out of my life. Earlier in the room I abide in, whoa, from the time I'm here, I was having a rare discussion with two black guys about politics and who is at fault for a lot of the messed up things that have happened in the past 10 to 15 years. Another black guy walked in just as I said that I wouldn't vote for Obama or for Romney. I would vote for Mickey Mouse first before either of them. This black guy that walked in got all upset because I was talking about Obama and said that everything that happened during Obama's presidency was Bush's fault. I didn't bother to get in an argument with him because he's number than a pounded thumb and didn't have shit for brains. He laughs like an old lady and acts like a little kid a majority of the time. He dodges every possible kind of responsibility he acquires and has every intention of selling drugs again when he gets back on the street. He's a typical case of recidivist. All because of being lazy and wanting the world to take care of him so he can lay his fat ass on the couch and collect welfare and sell drugs. He's someone that will, without a doubt, be incarcerated again and again until he's an old man and possibly until he dies. Like so many guys that are like him, life is just a big joke. Poor Lorne has to have a bunch of guys around him that are number than a pounded thumb. That's an interesting way to
Oh, I get it.
describe
Like you
him.
pound your thumb and it goes numb.
Uh-huh.
Right. I get. Okay. Took me a minute. I get it.
I know. Well, it took
I'm
me a
like,
second to
what?
read it. I'm like, I've never heard that before. But yeah, political Lorne.
Yeah, he's just trying to have an intelligent conversation about politics.
Yeah.
And this drug dealer, disgusting drug dealer,
Yeah.
just talking shit. Why is it important to mention that he was a black guy?
I don't know.
Because he likes Obama? Damn Democrats.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. He discussing two black guys about politics. There's the scrawny white guy. I don't know. I don't know why he has to describe people like that, but it must have been important. Otherwise, he wouldn't have written it down.
That's true.
Yeah. As much as I wish I could say that being incarcerated helps people to grow to be a better person, I can't. I wonder why. Is that because of you? Because you haven't grown to be a better person?
Well, he has. If only everyone could be like
True.
him, then it would be okay. Because he never went back to prison.
Okay.
Ever. Yeah.
It does some people, but most of them that are in here for selling drugs or some type of similar charge will just go back to the life they led that got them in here to begin with. However, a few do change and have a better life. But if they were made to go to work to learn something or made to go to school to learn more and get an education, then they would have they would have a much better turnout for people staying out of prison. But in order to do that, there has to be a staff that gives a shit about how people turn out in life. And that just isn't found here at Fort Dix, New Jersey. Instead, they have a staff of the kind that can only think about what's the best that they can get through the day without being bothered by a bunch of inmates that need help doing things to better themselves. There are a few staff members that do care, but they're a rare existence here. Among,
Um,
oh yeah, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead.
It's not the staff member's job to help inmates better themselves.
No,
And Learn talks all about freedoms, but he thinks people should be made to go to school
that is a great point. Yeah.
or made to get a job in
Mm-hmm.
prison
Mm-hmm.
to work for pennies.
Yeah, the thing is that, and I think that Lorne misunderstands this, is that prison, probation, sex offender treatment class, all of those things, they're punishment. He has to do them for punishment reasons.
Right, punishment and to keep other people safe.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. He thinks they're self-improvement programs.
Right, exactly. Now, do they have them? Sure. You know, because people can get their GED, they can learn how to do things, they can go to Bible study. Amanda James.
Ew. Just kidding.
But I know. But there are things to do, but their job is not to give you a college education, to teach you a trade, or to give a shit about any comfort that you have in there. You are in there because you're not allowed to be with society. You're not allowed to be out living your life. You have to be confined into this space because of something that you did.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So you're not talking about some, some, I don't know, you're not talking about poverty. You're not talking about people not having access to certain things based on poverty or what have you. Um, you're inside of a prison for punishment. So you're not going to get all of the things that life outside could afford you, where you would have
Right.
the ability to have access to a lot more. So you can be forced to take your classes then, your sex offender treatment, the victim impact classes that you're required to take because you're an asshole and don't know better to not do those things in the
Mm-hmm.
first place. You can be forced to take those types of things, but they're not there to teach you how to be a paralegal or to make sure that you have your TV time. Fuck off.
Yeah, those are all privileges
Yeah,
in prison.
right.
I know. I remember, I don't know if I saw that in the prison journal before or if Lauren was talking about that with a catfish, but I've heard him say that before, that people should be forced to go to school
I do remember that too. I'm
or
trying to think
work.
about where that was though, but I
Hmm.
do remember that he wanted people to be forced to learn so that they wouldn't be so ignorant.
Yes, yes, exactly. That's exactly what he said.
And therefore, if they do that, then they're going to treat him better, I guess.
I guess.
They're not going to pick on him so much.
Yeah, ignorant means mean. They're only mean because they're ignorant, because they just don't know any better.
They don't know any better. Exactly. Yeah. Um, let's see. Among other things that I'll be happy to get rid of is the ignorance of hearing grown men talk like ignorant infants when they say Gittiger and Wizzy for the Jadizzy and all the
Oh,
other stupid crap they come up with that you would only ever hear coming from a kid in second or third grade, and probably not even that high of a grade. It's quite pathetic. Then there's the punks in here that think they're tougher than God Himself. The only reason they try to act tough is because they have their backup buddies. But most of the time, if they were to get in a fight with someone, their buddies wouldn't be there to back them up. So they would just stand there and watch. Okay.
Where's your backup buddies, Lauren?
He doesn't have any. They all hate him.
He doesn't. He's so jealous.
I know. He really is jealous. That's why everyone's ignorant and stupid. He
Hmm.
wants to say Wizzy for the Jadizzy too, but but
I
nobody
know if they
will let him.
if he if he was in on that inside joke, it'd be hilarious.
It would be hilarious. You know how Lorne laughs at everything.
Yes, but they're like, "Fuck you, Lauren. You don't get to say that."
Yeah,
So
maybe
it's
he did say
ignorant.
that, and they just stared at him like everything stopped.
Yeah, like, what the fuck did you just say?
Yeah, exactly. Don't ever say that again.
Wizzy for the get it. What does it mean?
I don't know. I don't
I'm gonna
know.
Google it.
Yeah,
Oh,
let us
I want to
know.
know.
Let us know if that's really a thing.
Maybe.
We must know. It'd be funny if he just made that up.
Yeah, it's not a thing.
It's not okay. Maybe he's thinking of like the all the other stuff, like for shizzle my nizzle or
That's what
whatever.
I was thinking too. What
Yeah.
if that's what he's thinking, but he's like an old lady and he's like, they're saying the wizzy for the kidizzy or whatever bullshit.
Oh God. Yeah, that's probably it.
Well, I just Googled it
Okay.
and the top result is Amazon.com. Women stand up pee device.
Oh man, okay.
It must be called like a wizzy or something.
Yeah, could
I'm not gonna
be.
click on it. I don't wanna. They're gonna be
It's
recommending
gonna,
weird
yes,
things to me on my Amazon.
yes, they're gonna be recommending all kinds of stand-up urination devices.
I don't need that.
Oh gosh. All right,
Well,
so what does it say next?
the problem is that their buddies egg them on to. Is this the end of the book? Okay.
Yeah, it is.
The problem is that their buddies egg them on to say stupid shit when they know it can get their friend's ass kicked. It takes an awful lot of willpower to not beat someone's ass when they're smaller than you or even bigger, but especially when they're smaller, because you just can't believe that someone would or could be so stupid as to say something so ignorant to you. Amazing how ignorance takes over when a person comes in a place like this and gets surrounded by more ignorance. My God. The most amazing thing happens when you get an ignorant acting person all alone with you. The change is completely amazing. With zero ignorance around, the person can act completely the opposite of when they're surrounded by their buddies. It's sad to see so many followers and so little amount of people that don't have enough pride in themselves to take charge of their own lives and not follow someone else's example. There's many more things that I won't miss about this slash these piss holes, but I don't have enough time left here to list them all. So maybe I'll mention more at some other time. The end.
Bye. That's it. Lauren said bye to his journal. That's all that we have.
We got the grand finale of ignorance there at the end.
We did. I know. I know. There's many more things that I won't miss about this and these piss holes. But I
The
don't have enough
ignorance of
time left here to list them all. So maybe I'll mention them another time. Another time never happened.
it never came. Mm-mm.
I never came. This journal was never published, unfortunately.
It's a shame.
It is a shame. Yeah, we never got jailed. Then we never
Mm-mm.
got camp. And then we never got whatever this next book was going to be.
Well, he told his mom that he was working on a book called The Devil's Reign.
Okay.
And we never got that one either. We got the cat one.
Yes, the lost kitten. We got taken abroad and we got part of the creature.
Yeah, he doesn't mention taken abroad in the journal.
No.
God, it's like
It's a shitty journal.
it really is bad. I know. We're surprised. We're shocked. But how do you write a shitty journal? That should be like the easiest thing to write. You just write about what's happening each day.
Yeah.
But he jumps all over the place. And it wasn't formatted as a journal anyway. It was intended to be a book.
Right. Yes. It was intended to be a book. Yeah. With so many holes in it.
Yeah. Oh, Cappy's mad. Cappy's real
Cappy's
mad.
mad. Sorry, Cappy. Sorry that you had to
I
sit
know.
through this.
I know. He's like, you are ignorant. I've had enough of this ignorance.
Yeah.
What
So
is
there's the
funny though
journal.
is despite what Lauren wants the reader to believe, you can see through it. Like you can see that he was picked on and that
Yes.
he was unpopular and he's really bitchy and like resentful about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we know if any of those guys in prison had been like buddy buddy with him, he would have clung onto them for dear life, slept in their bottom bunk and cried when they were released.
Yes. Yeah. He would have talked about it like he did with jail. He
Mm-hmm.
would have talked more about those people if he had more of an interaction with them.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it seems like it wasn't really that great. I mean, he talked about a couple of problems that he had.
Yeah.
And he did mention that he was happy that that one guy got in trouble, the scrawny white guy.
Ha ha.
Yeah, because he was making fun of him when he was having a tough time
Yeah,
6 or 8
his
months ago.
issues.
His issues, which definitely means that he was crying.
Yeah.
We cannot discount that because that's his gentle way for himself to say that he was crying,
Hmm.
you
I
know.
wonder what he
So
was crying about. I wonder if he was crying because he was picked on, or because he was all alone. He misses his mother.
it could have been that. It could have been that he was alone because nobody went to go visit him there.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know. I just am imagining. I mean, he wasn't that far away. I mean, I know it was kind of, let's see how far away Cornville, Maine
From New Jersey. I don't know.
to Fort Dix, New Jersey. So it's an 8.5 hour drive. So, I mean,
Yeah, fuck that.
it's far. No, I understand that. But he was gone for 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And it's not like there was just one person. Like he only has his mother. He has tons of brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
There are other family members or his best friend Tony could have gone, but nobody went to see him.
Nobody went. Like they could have flown.
Hmm.
That wouldn't have been out of question. At least one time go and visit him like at Christmas. Never happened.
No, Lauren did want his mother to visit him too.
Oh, he said that in the letters.
He did, yes. He
Oh.
told her, "Don't bother coming here to the jail to see me. Just come when I go to where I'm going.
Okay.
And tell Mel I want him to come too."
Uh-huh.
Um, and somebody else, but the name was redacted, so I don't know who it was.
Okay.
But he definitely he said, "Tell Mel not to just say he's going to come. Tell him I want him to come."
Oh my God.
Mel didn't want to go, I guess.
Mel said, fuck you.
Yeah, so did Mom.
So did mom. Mom said that too. Yeah. Well, there's his journal. There's his jail story and his prison story, all wrapped up in 11 pages with giant holes in them.
Bravo.
Bravo, Lon. Yeah.
And it ends on talking about the ignorance of tough guys. It's
Yeah.
fucking tough, guys.
Yeah. And he's going to be glad that he doesn't have to deal with that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not going to miss any of that. And he definitely got away from all ignorance when he left prison and went back to life.
Mm-hmm.
He's never had to deal with any bullshit ever since.
Definitely not.
Yeah. So he definitely turned out just fine. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of surprising how poorly written that was, but I should not be surprised.
I think I'm surprised more about how much is missing.
Hmm.
You
Well,
know.
I think you were totally right when you said he just wasn't devoting as much time. He was working on other things. He was writing his books.
Mm-hmm.
He was working on the lawsuits, and he can only write so much. He gets
Right.
tired of writing.
Right.
His hand
Yeah.
hurts.
Definitely writing with like the little pencil, the little
Hmm.
mini pencil. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um, but yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, that's it. And it was stupid.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, there were a couple gems in there, though.
There were gems in there. Yeah. Yeah. I like the little stories about the people, even though we don't know them or anything outside of, the few sentences that Lauren devotes to whatever bullshit they were doing. But I like the
Hmm.
bullshit too.
Me too. I don't want to hear him rant about however, the system is corrupt, but he won't explain how it's corrupt, just that it's corrupt.
Just
And
that it's corrupt, that it's after money, even though, again, he doesn't say how that's possible. He doesn't talk
he's the
about any
one
of
saying
that.
he's going to make everybody pay, but they're the ones after money.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, we tune in for the stories about Eric, the white supremacist,
Mm-hmm.
the Eric the artist and white supremacist, and Aaron, the handsome old baby.
Yeah. That everyone's after. Everyone wants to tap that.
Yeah, the
They do.
handsome little boy. He's so sweet.
Yeah.
He's so funny. He's so
Yeah.
flexible.
Yes. Yeah. Most importantly, right? Yeah. I liked okay, so did you like the first half or the second half better?
The first half.
For sure. I was thinking that too.
I like hearing about all the gay stuff they did, and
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
was very little gay stuff in prison, it sounds like.
He didn't mention it except for that guy that was watching him while he was getting dressed.
Yeah, he was the only one. In the jail, remember those two guys had sex with each other?
Yes, even though they were trying to get away from doing that.
Yeah, they were trying not to do gay stuff, but they ended up having sex with each other. And
Mm-hmm.
that made Lauren's mouth drop.
It did. Yeah. Yeah, I liked the first half better too. Because it was just more stupid. Like,
Hmm.
it was just the day to day. Truly, you were seeing a man who didn't have anything to do. So he's going to write down everything that happened.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, getting back to prison, he really didn't at that point for the rest of the time. And I don't like to hear him complain about his sentence and how he got screwed over. And I think one of the frustrating parts of it for a lot of people, and for myself as well, is that you don't want Lorne to feel that way. You don't want Lorne to be walking around thinking, I got screwed over,
Hmm.
and how it's in really believing that, in feeling some kind of comfort from that.
Yeah.
Like, I want him to understand that he didn't get a shorter sentence because he was really screwed. If he was going to be going to trial, he would
Hmm.
still be in prison, because he would have gotten that charge and the jury would have found him guilty. I don't want him thinking that he truly had a chance of beating that, or that he truly had any kind of a leg up on NBC or Perverted Justice or anybody,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But
He did, though. He thought he could sue them for millions
he
and
did.
millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's disappointing that we didn't get a look inside what he was thinking as he was writing the lawsuits, like
Hmm.
how he came to the 80 million figure
Yeah.
or 40 million or whatever. Um, yeah, how did you come up with that number? Um, or just how he was feeling about anything. He really did a bad job.
Yeah.
But of course he did. It's Lorne.
Yeah, I'm curious how he got that figure as well. But we will never know, I suppose.
I think I might have made this up in my own head,
Okay.
or somebody might have said it somewhere, but I thought, sorry, we have a dog problem. I thought somebody, maybe him, said that that was like taking into account the money he could have made had he made it in country music,
Oh my God.
but they
I think you're
destroyed his
right.
chances of that. So that's
Right.
why
Oh, that is
that figure
precious.
was so high. Yeah. That's the average amount of money that a country singer makes, right?
Yeah.
80 million?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely is. Poor Lauren.
Like Dolly Parton, I think she has $80 million.
Yeah. That's how he came up with it.
He's gonna be the next Dolly Parton.
But instead, how he became famous is what, the picture that we have in our background. That's what people are going to remember him at the Sting House, him during
Hmm.
his interrogation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so if this were going to be a piece of art, which it is,
Hmm.
you could have it over your mantle. You could have it could probably be in the NBC studios lobby.
Hmm.
Lauren
Maybe
sitting
it
there.
is.
Maybe it is. I hope so. I haven't been there, so.
No.
But the caption would be, "Am I going to jail tonight?" Dot dot
Maybe.
dot. Yes, sir.
Yeah, maybe Chris has it hanging over his mantle,
Maybe he does. Yes,
hanging
maybe he does.
in his bedroom, poster sized.
Yeah, he has two posters because the first one they messed up and had made it the wrong way. It's the
Yes.
portrait, and
Hmm.
now he wanted it landscape, and then they were able to do it landscape, so they gave it to him for free.
Hmm.
And he has them both hanging in the same room.
Why not?
Why not? Exactly. Exactly. Well,
Mm,
I think that's a wrap.
I think so. This is a long one.
This is a long one. Again, we don't know how to make short videos.
We are verbose. Is that the right word?
I hope so. If it's not, they'll let us
If
know.
it's not, we'll fucking find out. That's right.
Exactly.
Now I'm kind of scared. We have a tough crowd sometimes.
We do have a tough crowd sometimes, but you know what? We love it. We love it. I think it's
Yeah.
so funny. I
Okay.
think it's so funny. I get pointed out the dumb shit I say. Gets ha ha ha. I'm like, stop it. Stop putting me
Not
down.
funny.
That's
Aren't you
right.
fucking perfect? That's what I
Yeah,
say.
with you and your fancy words that
Yeah.
you know how to use correctly.
How about you motherfuckers talk for 3.5 hours and don't say anything stupid?
Impossible.
Impossible, right?
Impossible. Yeah.
It's gonna come out at some point.
Yeah. And we're going to be there.
Ha ha. Not so tough now
That's right.
with all your buddies. Where's all your backup
Your
buddies
backup
now?
buddies. Yeah, you're just ignorant.
It's also 2 in the morning. It's late at night, guys. So
Yeah, it's late at night. It's been a long day.
so don't be ignorant.
Don't be ignorant. That's right. That's the lesson, okay? At the end of this, the takeaway is don't be ignorant. Well, with that, we're going to say goodbye for now,
Yes.
but we'll be back next time,
Hmm.
won't we? And until then, take care.